Second half of the season rolls on here for the G-Force Sim Racing Hijinx Clothing Company 87 Series as we get set for race number 9 here this evening at the Monster Mile Dover International Raceway. I'm Seth Cole alongside of Samuel Dyer. And Sam, we've seen at all sorts of tracks this season, drivers literally going sideways into the corner. This seems to, for some reason, be the one type of track that really plays into the cars with that type of setup.
Yeah, it is. Their cars are still going to be slick, but what's crazy is the fact that this track of being at Dover, it actually tightens up a little bit for the cars so they aren't as sideways or completely drifting around every single corner. The only issue the drivers really have to worry about is coming off of these corners. The exits is the most dangerous part with how much the walls feel like they extend out and just try to grab you into the wall.
Now, we've seen with this type of car, with the 1987 car, just the slightest amount of damage can really affect you for the rest of the race. And yes, these drivers do have fast repairs at their disposal, but this isn't called the Monster Mile for nothing. So what are we going to see as far as these drivers if they sustain some damage with the issues you were just talking about?
I mean, expecting a lot of pancaked right side of their vehicles, but with the way that these cars have been, they actually could take quite a bit of damage. If they're just continuously pancaking the wall every lap, it's not going to last for, you can only do that for about 15 laps before your car actually just completely breaks. But they're going to be having a great time out here at Dover as the drivers are getting set up and ready to get out for pace laps. But I think as long as you don't damage the engine, these cars are super durable and ready to really take any type of damage really out there.
Blaine Atkin on the pole for this one. He's always been good in qualifying, and it'll be interesting to see here in this type of a race if track position is going to be important, because we've seen with the 87 cars that usually a driver gets out to a pretty sizable lead, but then he gets reeled back in. Not certain if that's going to be the case here tonight.
Well, the one thing we're going to have to watch out for are the cars in the back. You've got Steinmiller, Houndshell, and Green that did not put a qualifying lap down and will be starting back in around 12th to 15th place. Those drivers are quick. They were the fastest during practice and expect them to drive through the field pretty quickly, but how clean will their cars be coming through this field?
Driver that is missing from tonight's grid is the 41 of Dallas Myhan. It's been a 3-horse race here for the last 5 or 6 weeks between Myhan, Christopher Morse Jr., and Jake Houndshell. Now it's right now between Morse and Houndshell, but we're going to be getting to that in a moment as there was an announcement made this week. But the green flag's in the air. 200 laps await these drivers here tonight at Dover.
And we're used to seeing Atkin take off, and this time he kind of stalled out the rest of the field. Still side by side for the lead, as it is still the 88, the 3, and the 05 all on top of one another.
Kyle Johnson on the outside there in that black and bright pink 88, trying to get down behind Christopher Morse Jr., 2-time winner this season, taking the checkers last week at the Charlotte Motor Speedway.
And they are now getting single filed up, and this is when you're going to start to see drivers starting to pull away. All the action, though, is going on around 5th position, where you're starting to see Bo Brady as well as Gerald Campbell, and also Weatherby and Jerron Capps all on top of one another.
Now, we've been told that the fuel window for these drivers is about 80 laps, but the tire window a lot smaller than that. So again, another track that's a tire killer. These drivers going to have to figure out, do they want to be aggressive early on and gain track position, or do they want to conserve and save their tires for the long run?
Yeah, it's pretty wild how quick these tires are going to drop off. It's side-by-side action for second place, as Kyle Johnson still stuck on the outside, Morris on the inside, and really that outside line has the better positioning just because of the way that you enter these corners.
A lot of drivers we saw back there from about 5th place back to 8th were utilizing that second groove, but as the run goes on as well, I'm not sure how many drivers we'll see go up there just based on the fact there's a good chance you're going to slap the wall coming off of either 2 or 4.
And it looks like Kyle Johnson trying to figure out how he can set up this 05, and if he can make a mistake, as drivers in the back trying to get themselves figured out. It really looks like it's kind of a 4-horse race at the moment up front, as Bo Brady is caught up. Weatherby's on the way to make it a 5-horse race. And everyone else, they are all scattered about 2 seconds back from this front group, and there's a long train from 6th on back.
Obviously, it's in the name, the Monster Mile. Dover is a mile in length, but just based on the banking and how quickly they're able to get around this track, the fundamentals of it are very similar to a short track like Bristol. And there you see a little bit of the chrome horn being used by Kyle Johnson, trying to get Blaine Atkin pushed up the track to take this race lead.
These front bumpers can take a little bit of bumps here or there, but if you start bumping them a little bit too hard, you can cause yourself to have some engine damage. Have to be careful there with Kyle Johnson bumping that 05's bumper. But he is quick. Kyle Johnson has put down the fastest lap here today and wants that lead so he can start pulling away.
Another shot there to the back bumper of Blaine Atkin. I'm surprised that with those 2 hard hits, we haven't seen that 05 possibly even go around. They're going to start rubbing doors at the start-finish line.
And you know that the drivers behind them are loving this action. The more they bump around with one another, the more damage they're going to have. And they're going to have to use the fast spear at some point because they are just bouncing off one another.
The Dover Downs 200, because there's actually the Dover Downs, the horse track, not too far away from here. And these drivers, they look like they're in a horse race right now, shoving each other out of the way.
And just like that, now Morse Jr. up to 2nd place, and we'll see as he drops it down low, as well as Weatherby trying to get under Bo Brady. But here's the thing, it takes a lot of courage to try to dive it below someone, but most of the time, it is not going to stick because that apron is deadly.
For the most part, this track is pretty uniform over in 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. However, a lot of drivers say that turns 1 and 2 is actually the place where you have a little bit more struggling than you do over in the final 2 corners.
Oh, Kyle Johnson in the wall and almost got spun around by the 3. Here comes Blaine Atkin as well as Bo Brady. As 1 second there, they were for 3 wide. But here comes the 3 on the outside and the 05 back to the point.
I'm not sure how often Blaine Akin uses his brake in these races because he was flat-footing it there, kept his momentum up, shot up the middle between Christopher Morse Jr. and Kyle Johnson, and now that 0-5 back to the front.
Back to the front. Now Bo Brady's going to give it a try in second place as he's going to get that 9 machine past the 3. We'll see if Christopher Morse Jr. is going to be fighting back or just let Bo Brady try his heart out and just try to save his tires. As we know, Akin is one of those drivers that likes to use his tires quickly at the start and then hope that he's got a big enough lead on the rest of the field before everyone else catches back up to him.
Talked about a couple of guys that started near the rear of the field trying to fight their way up to the front due to not taking laps here in qualifying. Hank Steinmiller's up to 6th, Jake Hounshell up to 8th. The problem is, yes, they've got fast race cars, but how much of their tires are they using up fighting their way up through the field?
I like the fact that we are seeing Steinmiller already up to 6th as he's catching up to the damaged machine, but it looks like Green might have made some contact with the wall, or maybe it was the 83 that did, as there was a lot of shuffling going on in the back.
Jeff Green, Gerald Campbell, Jake Hounshell all battling here for 8th on back through 10th, and then behind them you've got Tyler Riggs sporting some new colors that belly up colors the the blue, orange, and white on his 26, with John Whitendorf, our Talladega winner, right behind him as well.
It's hard to keep up with all the action as up front, Bo Brady finally up to the lead, pushing Akin back to 3rd. And these drivers continuing to just put on a show in every single position they are in. As drivers that are super close, you've got our leaders as well as all the drivers that are all on top of one another from 8th on back.
Now, you talked about the fact that on the longer run, these cars are going to start tightening up. So they're going to be lifting off the throttle a lot more on corner exit than they would be at the initial drop of the green flag. But I'm also starting to see those rear ends fishtail around a lot more than we saw at the start of this race as well. Those rear tires, those rear grip, it's going away.
Well, we were talking about tire drop-off. They had to make a change because they knew how much the tires were going to just drop off immediately for these drivers, as there's already incident and issues for Todd Eldridge in the 96, who was just disconnected from, or was teleported to the pits. Looks like he might have blown his engine.
Eldridge was running last car on the lead lap and was actually not too far away, about maybe 9 seconds away from being lapped by our race leaders. And that's another thing that might come into play too, depending on how long of a green flag run we go into as these tires start to fall off. As mentioned, this is a rather short track, even though it's a mile in length, and so we could see race leaders having to deal with the tail end of the field.
Yeah, like I was saying about tires, I mean, we're already only about to be 16 laps into this race, and the tires are already a second off of what they were running at their best lap times. That was at the start of the run. So these drivers, they're already dealing with a lot of regression on those tires and trying to do their best to keep pushing forward, as it looks like we might be having a battle for the lead here. Is Morse Jr. right on the back bumper of that 9 machine. Bo Brady doing the best that he can and hoping that he does not see a bumper to his back bumper.
We've had 2 cars in the wall here on this past lap. Ron Capps in the 28, Jeff Green in the 10, and both those shots were not like taps. They clobbered the outside wall.
Yeah, I mean, Dover is one of those tracks where you feel like you're good to get back onto the throttle, you're cruising most of the corner, and then once you get off the exit, you realize I'm coming in with too much speed and clobber the outside wall. Pass for the lead as Christopher Morse Jr. back to the front.
Christopher Morse Jr. looking to go back-to-back and picking up 3 wins on the season for that Intimidator number 3 machine. Caution is out.
It's Kyle Johnson in the 88. Oh, made some contact as well. And I think that might have been with Randy Kokine.
88 is teleported to pit road. There you see the front end damage on the Castrol 46.
And I believe it might have just been a hard contact with the wall possibly here as he drifts up off of 4. Yep, into the wall, into the inside wall, bringing out our yellow. And I think if the 88 just held his brake, Randy Kokine would have been fine, but due to the fact that he just let his car drift, it made contact and has now actually parked it. Did not want to use a fast repair for the 88 machine, is done.
And this is a driver that we saw up there battling for the race lead at the initial start of this race. And yeah, you just see the shot he takes right there. And dependent on the angle and the speed of which you hit that outside wall, it wants to shoot your car down to the inside. We saw nearly moments ago Ron Capps bouncing off the wall and coming down into somebody. So Not only these drivers having to battle the racetrack, but they're also having to fight the race car for whatever happens after they hit that outside wall.
That is just tough to see as both those drivers heavily damaged. Like I said, the 88 is out of it. The 11 most likely is going to have to use their fast repair now as the front end is so damaged. I don't think that you got away with that one without any type of engine damage.
Everybody's on pit road here. Are we surprised? 20 laps in, and everyone wants that fresh rubber. Unlimited tires for these drivers here tonight.
Yeah, I mean, that's the one thing that's going to be so different tonight than what all the other nights have been. Unlimited tires. You can come in practically every single caution that comes out, and that's what we're expecting to see. The tire strategy is going to be hard to be seen, as we were only about 10 laps in when they were already a second off what their lap times were, as huge changes, as I believe the 90 machine only took 2 tires.
Yes, he did. Ron Hollifield making his first start of the season, 2-tire pit stop, and gains a lot of track position as a result. This was a driver that I think came to pit road somewhere around the 13th position, so a huge net gain on pit lane for him.
Yeah, massive. Came in, yeah, like you said, 13th into the pits, coming out first. And a bold strategy to be seen here, 2 tires. But now is the time to do those strategies, see if it works out. But I don't see how these 2 tires are going to work out with everyone else as 4, just because of how much the tires already dropped off by the time the caution came out.
So Ron Hollifield's going to be the leader. Christopher Morse Jr. now back to second, followed by Bo Brady, Blaine Akin, and Nicholas Weatherby in the 24. Was another driver that did a great job of working his way up towards the front of the field, was putting a lot of pressure on Blaine Akin for what was then the 3rd position before that caution came out.
Yeah, and the drivers are going to be trying a lot of different strategies out during this race, and it's going to be curious to see how these drivers go. But some drivers that decided to go with just repairing their damage: Tyler Riggs, Ron Capps, Seth Harrelson. But all of those 3 of those machines decided to stay in and get damage repaired manually instead of using a fast repair early on.
Saw that Todd Eldridge, after engine woes, had to teleport his car to pit road. He is currently 4 laps down to the leaders, and so he's got to, here for the remaining 179 laps, just kind of ride it out and hope that other drivers run into some issues as well so he can gain some positions.
Yeah, and I mean, this is one of those situations where I know a few of these drivers, they came into this with not a lot of practice, so it's all about, hey, running it slow here. You might make a mistake here or there, but you know these cars can take a beating. So don't make too many mistakes and be there at the end of the race.
Folks, we mentioned the fact that Dallas Myhand is not in the field here tonight, and he came into this race second in the point stands, only 51 points out from points leader Christopher Morris Jr. Now, with him not being in the field here tonight, it was announced this week that the Vintage 87 series will be doing drop races, 1, possibly 2 here for the season. What the drop races are is drivers are able to take their lowest finish of the season and completely erase it. So this more than likely, with the implementation now of at least 1, maybe 2 drop races, will keep Dallas Myhand in the championship picture.
Yeah, it's something that's going to keep Dallas in this, and also it's going to bring in a lot of the drivers that came later on in the season, like Gerald Campbell, Tyler Riggs, and as well as Harrelson. I mean, those 3 drivers have been running well almost every single week, but they came in so late that they were so behind on points. That's going to help them out drastically moving forward.
Yeah, maybe even John Weitendorf, who's 6th overall in the standings, our Talladega winner, because I think he's made every start but 2 here this season. So I put that 33 up in the championship picture as well.
Also helps Blaine Akin now, who's missed a race or 2, so that 0-5 could come back to being on top of the board in points with the drop races being implemented. So it really shakes up the points and tries to make the points a lot closer for everyone, and that's why they implemented the drop race for this series. Pace car lights are off. We're going to be going this time by, and I'm interested to see how this 90 machine is going to work out with the 2 fresh tires compared to everyone else's 4.
But I think we're seeing it right now. He's keeping his car to the inside. I think he realizes he's not going to be able to hold off the 4 fresh tires behind him. So he's actually, in essence, giving up the race lead. He just wanted to get some laps led, I guess. We'll have to see how far back this 90 car falls what eventually everybody that is able to get around him does.
It's going to be good information for the rest of the field to see, as we'll see how quick he drops back or able to even hold off everyone else. I'm not expecting him to do too well up front just because of how fast everyone else has been, and with fresher tires. The regression on these tires is so brutal. We'll see when what we could see here. Space car rolls off, and the 90 machine ready to go.
Ron Holifield, first laps led here in his debut here tonight at Dover International. He'll lead them to the green flag as we're nearly 25 laps into tonight's Dover Downs 200.
Oh boy, Blaine Atkins might have passed a little bit too early. We'll see if the admins want to call him on that. That's 0-5. Tried to make a move. Bo Brady. Here goes Weatherby out of nowhere in that 24 machine.
And now they're going to be boxed up here behind the 90 car. Holifield trying to find a way out of Dodge as they're going to take him double wide to the corner. We're looking maybe 3 wide. Brady's going to go to the lead. Weatherby into second. Atkin and Moore side by side trying to get around. It will be Lane Atkin that will move into third place, it looks like.
It's Christopher Morris Jr. that's just been shuffled and staying on the outside. It looks like he might find some space, finally come down, and he does. Now the 90 machine stuck on the outside, continuing to drop back, and we'll see where everyone else shuffles out. But right now, in the lead, it's Bo Brady and Nicholas Weatherby pulling away from the rest of the field.
Another driver that really dropped there at the initial start of that race was the 31 of Gerald Campbell. He was up around the 6th position. He's now been shuffled all the way back to the 11th spot.
Yeah, he's trying to make that inside line work, and it's actually not. Everyone's passing him on the outside. So 31 machine, maybe not in the best position, but still with that front group, has a chance later on in this race. As cars that are catching up to our leaders, or at least trying, it's going to be Blaine Atkin, Cy Miller, as well as Christopher Morris Jr. finally got up to 5th place, and also Jeff Green and Houndshell as they're in the top 10.
Nicholas Weatherby just led his first lap of the evening, about half a car length over Bo Brady at the start-finish line, and now clears him off of turn 2. These two right now enjoying nearly over a second gap between themselves and the third-place battle.
Yeah, and that third-place battle, it's holding them back. They're actually not gaining anything, or if they are, it's very minimal on our front two that are cleanly making passes and just running their lines at this point.
We'll see if the gap starts to close up between the top 2 and third place on back. Right now it's holding steady about around 1.2 seconds as Jeff Green now up here in this
an issue
fourth.
for Bo Brady.
He's on the access road there, and not sure what this is about.
Something is wrong with that 9 machine. He has to teleport it all the way. Nope, he's disconnecting possibly. No teleports to his spot.
Teleported.
He's out. He manually disconnected. That 9 machine of Bo Brady, who was up front with Nicholas Weatherby, is now out of the race. That's 2 machines that have now parked it in the back.
That's 2 machines that we've seen up inside of the top 3 at some point in this race that have disconnected from the server. And if you think about it, too, it's 2 drivers that could very well have been contenders to get their first win of the season here tonight.
Now, it looked like Bo Brady might have been a start and parker here tonight, just due to the fact that he started and only got to lap 30 and then parked it. As side-by-side action for second place now, as you've got Steinmiller and Atkin, and Atkin's stuck on the outside as he'll be starting to get shuffled all the way to the back.
I think Steinmiller comes into this
race.
Hard
contact to the wall for the 05 and the 3.
Did they save it?
They saved it. They both stayed straight, but that is massive contact for the 05. Who's going to have to use a fast repair here probably later in the race. But that is massive contact for the 05. The 3 somehow is still in third.
Now, I think that Christopher Morris Jr. may have bounced off of someone or may have made a little bit of slight contact with somebody when his car shot down to the inside wall, but I'm not sure.
Looking back now, he went straight from the 05. I'm looking to see if he hit that inside wall. He did not hit that inside wall. He just got hit and shuffled by the 05.
There's not a whole lot of space when a car gets out of shape that it's going to be able to save it from hitting either the outside or the inside wall. So it's a miracle that Christopher Morris Jr. didn't pancake his left side and Blaine Atkin all the way back to 11th place. Whoa! Nearly had ourselves right off before.
Holyfield in that 90 machine is holding strong in 7th place, side by side with Jeff Green, and trying to fight back on that 33. Excuse me, not the 33. That's the 10.
Holyfield now back to 7th place. He was for a brief moment holding off Jake Houndshell but then he got kicked up out of the groove, and those worn out left side tires not able to give it the grip he needed. Now all of a sudden Jeff Green appears to be a little bit off the pace, as both Houndshell and Weitendorf got a huge run on him and are going to pass him, knocking him outside of the top 10 back to or rather the top 5 back to 6th.
These drivers are running up front, and this is it's just showing the drivers that are able to save their tires are the ones that are moving forward right now, as we're 14 laps into this stint, and already battle scars are being shown for the 10 and others. But our top 3 are pretty scattered between each other, pretty spaced out, almost a second each for their gap, and then it's 4th on back where you start to see little battles here and there.
It's from Houndshell back to Weitendorf, back to Green. And then you have Ron Capps, you saw as we were on board, closing in on Ron Hollifield for the 7th position. We've got some other drivers here towards the rear of the field, though, that have really been struggling as well. Tyler Riggs, you mentioned that he came to pit road to get some damage repaired. He's back here in 13th. Seth Harrelson, I think, I might be wrong, but I think that 07 might have already used a fast repair, because he had quite a bit of extensive front-end damage when we saw him prior to that caution. Looks like that has been now fixed, especially down around that left front.
I'm going to take a quick gander at this machine and see if he has used fast repair or not. But you could be right there, Seth.
Gerald Campbell moving by Eric Schaefer. That moves Campbell up to 9th. And further up, the battle now brewing for the 5th position, as Jeff Green all over the back bumper of John Weitendorf, looking for a spot back inside of the top 5.
Look back, Seth Harrelson just manually repaired it. He's back on track with, he still has fast repair left on that machine. Oh, Blaine Atkins into the wall, drifting it through 1 and 2 and saving it, and still in front of the 26 and the 07.
And you can see that that's given even more damage to the back end of that car. That rear bumper looks like it might be slanted at about a 25 to 30 degree angle. That's got to be kind of almost like a little bit of a skewed rear end that would make the car even looser going into the corner, I would think.
Yeah, it is not helping that 05 anymore, and it's just making him drift more and more every single time. And the longer this run goes on, the more it's actually going to hurt the 05. So Blaine Atkin, he's going to do his best and hope for a caution to come out, but right now it's more of survive, as he's in 11th place at the moment.
Watching inside the helmet cam here for Blaine Atkin, watching the hands, as you can see that he's counter steering a little bit there on the straightaway. You're going to see those hands jerky to the right, trying to save that car when he feels that loose sensation.
Steinmiller has finally done it, gotten past the 24 machine, and there was almost contact between our leaders and Todd Eldridge, but able to get by cleanly as the 96 machine, able to get out of the way. But that could have been disastrous for our 2 front runners. Ron Capps started into the wall.
Steinmiller is capped.
Oh no, Blaine Atkins goes around.
Did he hit the wall, or did someone hit him? Because he just came into the camera view.
Pretty sure he hit the wall.
Wow. That was a violent impact. It looked like he got
Oh no, he made contact with the 5 machine.
And Eric Schaefer, that Levi Garrett Chevrolet Lumina, smoking. And there's another car smoking there. That's the 46 of Randy Koking.
Randy Koking, I think that might have been, that was him coming out of 4 after the caution had been waived. And Koking luckily did not use a fast repair on that last restart, so still has it and still going to be able to run this rest of this race due to the fact that he still has a fast repair.
Looks like this actually was contact between Eric Schaefer and Blaine Atkin for position. Would have been around the 11th spot, I do believe.
Yeah, it was around the 9th or 10th position at that time.
You know, the 5 never even got up into the wall. He just got really loose coming off of 4. Came down across the nose of Blaine Atkin, and that's some hard impact into that inside wall for the both of them. We'll then go and see what happened to the 46, because I didn't see him involved in that wreck, as you alluded to.
Yeah, it was right after the yellow had been called. That's when he came into the pits and, came off the wall and hit the inside wall. Looking at machines and seeing who's thinking about using their fast repair now.
I think that there's some definite candidates there right at the moment. The 46, the 5, and the 05, I think, all at this point really have to use a fast repair.
And I believe also the 96 has used one, so that's at least 3.
We're going to go back and look at the Ron Capps incident off of 4 as well. I don't think he hit anything. I think he got close to maybe brushing the inside wall, but I don't think he did.
So Blaine Atkin has used his fast repair. That is 4 of the 15 cars still on track that have used their fast repairs.
It's less than a quarter of the way through this race as well. Oh, wow. Nope, Ron Capps did get it pretty good with the left side as well. And there you see, just on the right side, that was Blaine Atkin coming shooting into the picture after his contact between himself and Eric Schaefer.
Well, for these drivers that have already made contact, already using their fast repairs, it kind of puts them in an awkward situation because we're not even a quarter of the way there and you have to use fast repair. It's putting you in a mindset where you have to be up in either the back or if you're running up front, have space between yourself and other cars.
Yeah, and we've definitely seen here a lot of drivers running in single file formation have been right up each other's gearboxes. So, yeah, if you're going to do that, you're going to have to give yourself quite a bit of space between you and either the driver ahead of you or the driver behind you because there's just too much room for error.
Well, seeing Hank Steinmiller up in the lead, not anything surprising. He was the second fastest during practice. Didn't put down a qualifying time, but has shown speed here in that 63 machine. One of the fastest cars on track, even with, I believe, the fastest lap put down out of all the machines out here. As I say that, I take that back. Actually, Nicholas Weatherby has put down our fastest lap all race long with a 24.6, and that was earlier in the race.
Got a bit of a development here with our points leader and last week's winner, Christopher Morse Jr. He spent more than a minute on pit road getting repairs done. I think he may have lost a lap under caution right now, running -1 in the 14th position.
That he is. He has lost that position, trying to get the repairs done after making contact with Blaine Atkin. So now he's going to be in the back, 1 lap down. We'll see what this 3 machine has, and hoping for an early caution to get that early lucky dog.
So Hank Steinmiller, who had the pole back at Talladega, that's how he made it into the All-Star race a few weeks ago, trying to now capture his first win of the season. Nicholas Weatherby lines up in second. Jake Hounshell looking to take advantage of the fact the 3 is a lap down. He's up in third. John Whitendorf in fourth. And fifth place is going to be Jeff Green, followed by Campbell, Hollifield, Riggs, Atkin, and Harlson. And I got to say, job well done for that 90 car of Ron Hollifield, because he only fell back, I think, as far as the 8th position. He's now in that 7th position. And let's remember, he gained all this track position because of the 2-tire pit stop back under the first yellow.
Yeah, came in 13th when he came to the pits, tried the 2-tire stop, started on the lead, dropped back to where he's at now in 7th. So a massive net gain for himself.
Ron Capps back on pit road, getting some more damage repaired on his number 28. As we're still waiting for the lights to go out atop the pace car. We're about 5 laps away from reaching a quarter of the way through this race. And so far, working our second caution of the night. 2 drivers out of the race up at this point. Those 2 being Bo Brady and Kyle Johnson. Currently, 2 drivers off the lead lap. Christopher Morse Jr. we just talked about, 1 lap down. And Todd Eldridge, who had some early issues with engine problems. He is currently 4 laps down to the race leaders, but right now 13 cars in the lead lap of 15 cars still running.
Pace car lights are off, and the 2 drivers are seeing just dropping back. That's the 5 and the 11 on our telemetry with the 46 on car of Randy Koken. Those drivers are a lap down, so they'll be starting at the end of the line. Believe they will be in front of the 3. I take that back. No, they will not. They'll be starting behind the 3 machine.
You have to remember that this league runs 1987 rules, and there were no waiver rounds back in 1987, so just because those 2 drivers of Koken and Schaefer were ahead of the race leader does not mean they get to go around the pace car and get their lap back. They have to EOL and currently find themselves -1, so 4 drivers now will be off the lead lap of 15 cars still running, as the pace car is going to turn left onto pit road and turn them loose yet again. One thing that we got to talk about here as well, yes, we have worked 2 cautions, but we've seen some rather long green flag runs, and Dover is one of the toughest places to get onto pit road.
Yeah, if we could somehow get a green flag run into a green flag pit stop, we'll see how it goes. But right now, it's going to be Hank Steinmiller Leading the way is Weatherby, clogs up and backs everyone up. And that is massive contact. Here comes the 90 machine on the inside, trying to get by Jeff Green, and will do so. And here also comes Blaine Atkins. And that 05 has used a fast repair and not even scared to be moving up front. His contact with Green.
Green gonna door him down to the inside. Fortunately, they get through that as Atkin will clear the 10 machine. It was hard to tell there with that stack up whether the 63 backed everybody up or if the 24 tried to anticipate it too early, but it definitely bunched the field up and a couple of drivers with some damage, including the 24 and the 83.
Yeah, those drivers already, they're now having some more front end and rear end damages. Now you get to see that dent visibly on the 24, and that is I have never seen that dent before. That is a different damage model I have ever seen, as it's just straight a point at the center that is just dug in on the 24 machine as he continues to run forward, as well as Blaine Atkin is now up to 5th place, trying to get back up front. Has a little bit of side damage that he got from Jeff Green, but cars up front, they are all pretty good at the moment. Well, you have to go back to about 9th to 8th, 9th place, where you see cars that are pretty stacked up on one another.
I can tell you that if we took a cast mold of the back bumper of the 24, it would look identical to the front of Jake Hounshell's car, because that is who it was that ran into the back of him there on that stack up on the restart. Got a couple of teammates back here, Gerald Campbell, Tyler Riggs, 8th and 9th. We really haven't talked much about either of these drivers here this evening, and both of them last couple of weeks have been up there at the front in the conversation for wins. Something says to me that they're kind of playing the long game here, preserving their tires, preserving their race cars, preserving their fast repair.
It's a little mixture of that, as well as just trying to understand this track a little bit more. I mean, Tyler Riggs, we talked to him before this race. He said that he hasn't had any practice, really, wasn't here for practice. All his practice was his one qualifying lap that he got to put down, and then he was out there trying to learn this track as we're going along. So this 26 machine running 8th at the moment, but I'm expecting him to be running a lot faster by the end of this race, as they're still all wadded up behind him.
Randy Koking into the wall, almost came down into Eric Schaefer. These are 2 lap machines that are trying to catch up here to the 3 of Christopher Morse Jr., who's just ahead of them. These 3 drivers all battling for the potential free pass position should we get a yellow flag.
And we're waiting to see if we ever do get a yellow flag here, as up front, it was looking like it was a pretty good gap. Weatherby is now starting to reel in that 63 machine of Steinmiller, and we'll see if that 24 can catch up to the 63.
Right now, if you look at our top 2, both drivers looking for their first win of the season. Steinmiller in the 63, Weatherby in the 24. Then you've got former winners completing the rest of the top 5 with Hounshell, Whitendorf, and Blaine Atkin.
Blaine Atkin, charging still, trying to catch up to Whitendorf, but I think he might have stalled out on using those tires as hard as he was at the start of this stint here, as these drivers are still running pretty good, but Weatherby is still chipping away at this lead.
Now, so far, we've ended up having 2 cautions, and both cautions have come around the point where we reach around lap 20 into a run. These drivers have now been out there for 12 laps on this run, so it almost seems like if we get to about lap 20, lap 25, that's when drivers are really having to deal with either the loose sensation off the corner or the tightness off the corner hitting that outside wall. That's where we're seeing these cautions happen.
Yeah, and it's a lot of a car hitting the wall and spinning out and usually making contact with another machine. And Dover has always been known as if you make a caution or a car spins in the front stretch, usually it's going to hit another machine just because how narrow it is. But these cars running still pretty clean and doing well up front, as Jeff Green still being pulled along by Atkin, catching up to Whitendorf now, as it's now a 3-car battle for that 4th place position.
Jeff Green, we saw him get right up to the back bumper of Blaine Atkin, and then that car drifted up the racetrack. Another thing these drivers have to worry about is dirty air, and of course, if someone takes away that inside line, which is going to be the preferred line around the racetrack, these drivers are going to have to figure out a way to make that second groove work to be able to pass for position. Either that, or use the chrome horn and move that other driver out of the way.
Whitendorf gets moved up just a little bit on the outside, almost decided to go 3 wide. Jeff Green thought better of it, as they'll be now on the inside of Whitendorf, pushing that 33 machine from 4th all the way back to 5th place. And now Blaine Atkins, next victim that he's going to be aiming for is going to be the 83 of Jake Hounshell. Houndshell is someone that's surprising to see that he's only in third place, as during practice, he was the fastest car out there, but only was by 1/100th of a second.
Dover is one of those tracks where just about
Oh
everybody
no! Blaine Atkin into the wall again, able to save it off the inside wall, but a hard contact on the outside.
And don't forget, he's already used his fast repair, and so this is damage that if we get a caution, he's going to have to come down pit road, and his pit crew is just going to have to repair manually, as we've got a battle up here. Battle just up ahead. That's between Jake Houndshell and Nicholas Weatherby in exchange for second place.
Yeah, it looked like Weatherby was catching up to Steinmiller, and then he stalled out. And now that 24 machine slowly drifting back, and now up to third place. Luckily, though, has a 1.3 second gap on himself and Jeff Green.
Back here, if we're going to get ourselves a third caution, it could very well be in this group. You got the lap machine of Christopher Morse Jr., Gerald Campbell, Seth Harlson, Tyler Riggs. That's 8th on back through 10th. And these guys have been nose to tail ever since we went back green.
I think a driver that's in kind of just cruise control might be Ron Hollifield, and that 90 machine is it's just cruising around. No one really in front or behind him in that 90 machine while he's running in 7th place.
Ooh, Blaine Atkin nearly got the wall again there off of 2 as he's trying to hold off John Whitendorf. And we've talked with Blaine before in Victory Lane twice this season, and he said he likes the loose feeling of a race car, but he has been struggling with the fact there's not a whole lot of room coming off the corner to be able to have that loose race car before you find that outside wall.
Yeah, the outside walls coming out of the corners are kind of sticking out a little bit more than you usually would see at usual oval courses. So it always feels like it's out there way more just because it's only about a foot or two out more than a usual inside field would be. I mean, outside wall would be.
So there, Gerald Campbell looking back to Seth Harlson, who continues to put the pressure on the 31. Tyler Riggs right there as well. A driver that could be very much in danger of falling a lap down, especially if we go into a long green flag run, is Ron Capps. He's about 10 seconds away from being lapped by race leader Hank Steinmiller.
Yeah, Ron Capps right now is about a little bit less than a half a track between himself and Steinmiller. But he's kind of dealing with a lot of damage on the front end of this 28 machine as well on both sides. So kind of hoping for this race to just stay on the lead lap until about 50 laps left, and then he'll think about using that fast repair.
Lap 21 of this run has been completed as the 63 crosses the start-finish line. And we got
Weatherby!
trouble. There you go.
Weatherby and Green, I believe, both made contact, and that's why we saw him slowing up. I'm going to take a quick replay to see what exactly happened, as it was actually just Weatherby all on his lonesome out of 4 hitting the wall.
Man, Weatherby is going to teleport his car to pit road, and the tough break there for Weatherby is he was past his pit stall, so it's going to be a very long tow for that 24 car.
Blaine Atkins getting loose out of 4 again. Same wall, same corner as it's been almost every single lap for that 05. That time able to save it. Is always drifting down to 2.
Gracious. You'd think it was a dirt track with how slideways that 05 was. Somehow was able to counter steer it off of 2 and keep it straight. And John Whitendorf is back here thinking, man, which lane do I go to try and pass him? He's blocking all 3.
Well, also he's questioning how did he save that? That he just came over the radio was Whitendorf. He's like, I don't know how you saved that, Blaine. And they are still questioning what's going on because Blaine doesn't even know how he saved that.
And these two are actually starting to catch up to Jeff Green, so it's about to be a 3-way battle for that 3rd position yet again. Also, looking in terms of lap times, Jake Houndshell is beginning to chip away and put pressure on Hank Steinmiller for the race lead.
Yeah, Steinmiller, I don't know if he's just lifted off of his pace to save his tires or if he's used them up too much because everyone behind him is running faster than our leader at the moment.
And now bring it down to 2.5 car lengths between Houndshell and Steinmiller. Houndshell has not led yet today. And let's bear in mind, in terms of the overall points situation, Houndshell came into this race 3rd in the standings. 2 points leader Christopher Morse Jr., who right now finds himself a lap down. 94 points separation between those two. And this is not counting the drop races that will be taking place when we get to the end of the season.
Yeah, the drop races are really going to switch up and change the way that the points are looking right now, as well as just seeing some of the front runners having issues. I mean, you've got Christopher Morris Jr., who's one lap down with a caution, would get that lucky dog position, unless we see Ron Capps get put a lap down here as they're inching closer and closer on him, as that is about a 5 to about 8 seconds difference between our leaders and Ron Capps, who's the last car in the lead lap.
Now, if I remember correctly from what I read, drivers will have to announce which races race, depending on whether it is one or two, they are going to drop by time we get to Michigan on September 22nd, leaving us with 5 races remaining in the season.
And our leaders are catching up to the 11 machine, who's just going to dump it on the inside and try to get out of the way. But that 11 machine has been having a rough day and hit the wall hard on that last lap.
All right, so we've had 2 runs so far of about 20 laps apiece. This is our longest run so far, about to be 30 laps. We know these drivers can make it 80 laps on fuel. When do we see them potentially come to pit road to take on tires if we manage to get to that point?
I'm imagining most of these drivers are thinking lap 40 to 45 is the pit window, just because of the tires and the way that they've been just dropping off. That's the window I'm seeing right now. But it is very possible for these drivers to go to probably 50 to 55. But 40 to 45 is the window I'd be aiming for these drivers.
Just to show the tire fall off and the speed fall off for these drivers. Best lap for Hank Steinmiller, 24.6. This last time by, 26.3. That's a 1.7 second difference between his fastest lap and the lap he just put down on 30-lap old tires.
Yeah, usually when you're racing at these tracks that are really aggressive on tires, you go until you're about 2 seconds off of your best lap time that you put down. That's usually the marker of Danny.
Oh
Come
my
in.
goodness, Blaine Ackett just got into the side of the lap machine of Christopher Morris Jr. Caution's going to wave for that. It was hard to tell. I think Ackett may have gotten into the wall just before that. And we're going to have to go back and look at a replay there. I don't know if he was recovering his race car or not. That car just shot to the left when Christopher Morris Jr. was alongside of him.
I believe he was recovering after being up into the wall. He was loose, trying to save it. I think also he might not have realized the 3 was there. I think that was the main thing, is he was trying to set up how to get by the 90 machine, but was not able to.
Well, the good news for Christopher Morris Jr., I think he didn't hit anything. I think he spun down onto the apron and was able to get the car straightened back up. So, not sustaining any damage there. I don't think the 05 actually did hit the outside wall. He nearly did, and there you see the 3 cars spinning down to the inside. Woo! Put an avoidance by Gerald Campbell in the 31.
Yeah, probably the save of the day goes to Gerald there, not hitting anything and able to slide by the spinning 3 car, but over the radio for these drivers, Blaine is saying, hey, I deserve an EOL for that one. Didn't know you were there, trying to save my car, and contact made. That's the second time we've seen both those machines being close and making contact with one another. So we'll see how they respond as another machine out of the race. The 24 of Nicholas Weatherby is done.
We saw him have his issue and pull down to the inside of the track over in turn 1 as there's that miss by Gerald Campbell we were just talking about. And I guess the toe was just too long for him. And the 24 out of the race. Another driver. I don't know what it is. It seems like being in the second position is a jinx for these drivers because, correct me if I'm wrong, Kyle Johnson was in second place when he started his free fall. Bo Brady was in second when he had his issue. And Nicholas Weatherby was in second place when he ended up having his problem off of 4.
I think there might have been a mistake for the 24 machine. The last caution looks like the 24 used a fast repair, and I don't think he actually meant to use it, as there was minimal damage on the 24. And then coming into there, he didn't, after that heavy contact on the inside wall, he just had too much to repair for that 24 and just parked it instead.
Well, not only that, but we're getting close to halfway in this race, and at the point that he decided to put it behind the wall, he was 10 laps down. It is so difficult, especially with the fact that there's no waiver rounds for these drivers to utilize to get that many laps back before the conclusion of the race.
Yeah, the only way to get your lap back is through Lucky Dog, or we're doing it the hard way of just being that much faster than everyone else. But with the way that we've been seeing a caution every 20 to 30 laps, It's going to take a while for these drivers to get to the end here, as just based off the tendencies that we've been seeing, we might be seeing ourselves another 2 to 3 cautions.
You just saw Ron Capps there moments ago deciding to stay out. Now comes to pit road, and we'll have to see if if that's going to play any difference. One lap fresher tires than anybody else. I mean, we saw the 2-tire strategy from Ron Holifield actually work out pretty well, so I'm not sure there's a huge difference in tires if it's something like 5 laps or so.
I think even just 1 lap is massive here at Dover. I mean, we've seen just after 2 to 3 laps that these drivers, the drop-off and regression of the tires is about a quarter of a second from what they were running before. So still a massive advantage to try to utilize for a driver that was running in the back already.
Now, while it was a... Go ahead.
I was just about to say, Ron Capps is still in there. Looked like he was actually repairing more damage, as they'll be getting back out there, hoping that he's still in front of the pace car, which he is. So I think it was just for damage on why he came into the pits.
Blaine Atkin coming down this time in the 0-5. Now, while that caution was a good thing for Christopher Morse Jr. and the fact that he didn't really hit much of anything and sustain really bad damage, the bad thing for him was he was going to be in line to be the lucky dog machine, but since he was the car that brought out the caution with his spin down to the inside in turn 1, nobody, as far as I'm aware, is eligible for the free pass.
No one that was going to be able to get it. Looking on, yeah.
So Jake Houndshell, going to be the race leader, was not able to get around Hank Steinmiller prior to that caution coming out, but his team getting it done on pit road. So now he'll be out in front of the 63. Jeff Green's going to line up in third with John Whitendorf in 4th place. These were 2 drivers that were mixing it pretty good for around the 3rd position. Ron Hollifield's up to 5th. Gerald Campbell, Tyler Riggs, Ron Capps, Seth Harlson, and Blaine Atkin, your top 10, and those are the drivers currently on the lead lap. As we're going to be getting back Green somewhere in the vicinity of around 121 laps to go, I do believe, when they take the green flag.
Looks like we might be able to add another driver to the list of machines that used a fast repair, or I think I might have just missaw something. Never mind. Thought I saw the 63 use fast repair, but I was wrong on that.
Now, the one thing we have to remember here as well is we have been able to go under 3 long green flag runs of anywhere from 20 to 35 laps. We ran into this issue back, I think it was at Talladega, where we were talking about the fact that drivers that had not used their fast repair up to that point, they've kind of got, if they are going to use it, they got to figure out which caution, when we get closer to the end of this race, they want to use it, because they may not get a chance to use it the entirety of this race.
Yeah, I think for most of these drivers, they're understanding, hey, with 50 to about 70 laps, if there's a caution between that time, I have to use my fast repair then, because you don't know if another caution will come out. You know, the intensity level will grow at the end of this race, but how much will be left in cautions once we get to about 20 laps to go? Pace car is off, and Houndshell leading the way. We'll see if we see anyone get stacked up accordion-wise, as it's going to be Gerald Campbell on the inside trying to make a move here.
You see that front-end damage on the 83 leading him to the green. That was after he got into the back of Nicholas Weatherby, as side-by-side back here for the 6th position. Campbell will take the spot. Riggs looks to move by as well, dropping the 90 of Hollifield back to 7th. There's the lap machine of Christopher Morse Jr. in the free pass position yet again.
Free pass, still trying to move up, and he's got to be up front the most that he can for that 3 machine. At the same time, don't put yourself in a situation where you're going to be the caution.
Woo!
As he get it squeezed between the Riggs and the 90.
Had to brake for the 26 of Riggs and nearly got jacked up from behind by the 90 of Hollifield there through 1 and 2.
Yeah, I would get out of that situation quick, as the 3 goes on the inside, pushing Riggs on the out. And the 26 of Riggs will be losing even more positions as he's stuck on the high side.
There's Ron Capps taking a position. That would be for 7th. Blaine Atkin trying to work his way back to the front yet again. What a topsy-turvy day it's been for him.
Speaking of being squeezed, Steinmiller just got squeezed as well up front. This is a battle for 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, as that 63 machine got stuck. Now he's trying to figure out how to get by these machines.
Houndshell, Steinmiller, and Green nose to tail. Throw a blanket over him because it's only 0.2 of a second separating these drivers. Steinmiller says, "You want the spot, Green?" Moves up the racetrack and gives up the runner-up position.
I think he was kind of done being an Oreo for a second there as he was being squished in the middle. Decides, hey, I'll go to third place and just sit here and let you guys battle it out. There's a chance that they could battle and cause some damage between one another, as we've been seeing the bumper being used a lot more this race than we've seen at any other racetrack.
Green got awfully close to the back of Houndshell's bumper there through 3 and 4 as he'll try and close up the gap out of turn 2. One thing about Dover is if you're going to be able to make up ground on somebody and make a move on the front straightaway, you've got to get the throttle down sooner from the center of the corner off.
And they're going to be trying to do the best they can here, as here comes Green through the center of the corner, and it looks like he might have gotten on there perfectly, as now he's under the 83 machine.
Got to be careful sometimes of making that late move into 1 or 3 because sometimes the other driver's not going to know you're there. But Green, beautiful pass through 1 and 2. He's going to go to the front to the race lead.
Here comes John Whitendorf in the 33 machine, who's going to be trying to snuff this out and kind of be the spoiler between these 3 machines, as he's got probably the cleanest car up here. Besides that back bumper, as long as you don't look at the back bumper and see how smashed it is, I mean, that car looks pretty clean in 33.
We're on board with the 33. You can just see how close these 4 drivers are to each other, front bumper to rear bumper. And you see the 33 kind of stepping out of line there on the back straightaway and the front straightaway. What's he doing?
I think it's just because he's getting so much of a better run out of these corners on the 63, but his entry is so much slower that he's not able to really utilize it. But if he can somehow get a quick enough exit, he's trying to just be out of line so he can try to make a pass if possible.
And all of a sudden, after Jeff Green got around Jake Houndshell, he is starting to pull away. That last time by, he ran a 25.7 to the 25.9s that the 3 drivers behind him ran.
And as these 3 are battling it hard, here comes the lap machine of the 3 of Christopher Morris Jr., who's trying to do it the hard way of unlapping himself, as he is what would have been 5th place on the board.
Yeah, where was it? Was it back at Charlotte, or was it further back around North Wilkesboro or something where there was a driver? I think it was Gerald Campbell. It was a lap down machine. He got up there and mixed it up with the lead lap cars, trying to get his lap back the hard way. We could see Christopher Morris Jr. do that here tonight at Dover.
Yeah, it was at Charlotte when we saw Gerald Campbell do that, and it helped them to almost win. I believe he almost won that race, or was it the race that he won? But it is hard to do past these drivers on the green flag, as there are a lot of fat racing cars up here, and they keep on racing as hard as they are. There's a possible chance our caution, or we've been seeing it around lap 20 to 30, might be happening up front.
Well, we're 14 laps into this run. I believe Ron Hollifield has been at least one of the first drivers to clobber that outside wall gear, as he was battling at the time with Tyler Riggs for the 7th position. He's now dropped back to the 10th spot, last car on the lead lap.
Well, if we are looking for a possible green flag pit stop, the marker for these drivers would be around lap 130 to about 150 would be your markers for these drivers to make it to the end here on fuel and tires. As these drivers continue to be pushing forward, they are just mixing it up front, continuing to race as hard as they can. But right now, I mean, Steinmiller is just getting a grill full of that 33 machine in his mirror, and it has got to be nerve-wracking being this close. I mean, he was being that squished car when he was in 2nd, and now that he's in 3rd, being squished once again. And he's not really having the momentum to get by Houndshell, and it's really been a struggle for him so far.
That's probably got to be a very tough situation for Steinmiller, and the fact that he wants to push it into the corner and make sure that he's not going to have Whitendorf on his back bumper. At the same time, he can't carry too much speed because then he's into the back of Houndshell.
Yeah, it's one of those limbo moments where you got to make sure that you're not making any wrong move here, because you could cost your race as well as someone else's if you make one mistake.
Jeff Green out in front. Do you think he might have redemption on his mind from last week? I mean, an unbelievable 5-lap segment in the closing stages of that Charlotte race between Jeff Green and Christopher Morris Jr. came down to a pass on the final lap with Morse Jr. just being able to take the win from Jeff Green. You got to think that might be in the back of his mind, as right now he's out in front here at Dover.
Yeah, I mean, he's got to be always thinking about how I could have gotten a win here or there. Jeff Green's been a favorite almost every single track that we have been to. His 10 machine's been quick. It's just been a lot of luck that hasn't been on his side moving forward. But as we talk about Jeff Green, he is being hunted down as Houndshell is coming, with other machines following suit, as well as Christopher Morse Jr. catching up to these guys.
Caps, his struggles at Dover continue as he had to teleport his 28 to pit road, and he is now falling multiple laps down to the race leaders. That's another thing about Dover. You come to pit road, whether it's through teleportation or just a regular green flag pit stop, you're going to lose at least one, more than likely 2 laps.
Yeah, it looks like he came out of 2 a little awkward, teleported it to the pit stops, and I believe once he gets teleported, he still has fast repair, get him out there. It's just the fact that teleporting and being towed to pit stop takes about 1.5 to 2 minutes, which is a long time for these cars. As we say that, Ron Capps is manually disconnected and parked it.
So Ron Capps will finish the night out more than likely in the 14th position as John Weitendorf finally completes the pass for 3rd place around Hank Steinmiller. And the one guy that I've been watching that's just been soldiering on, even though he is multiple laps down, is the 96 of Todd Eldridge. Eldridge comes into tonight's race running very well in the point stand since he's made most of the starts. He's 8th in points, and so he's going to pick up a couple more points here tonight, just continuing to log laps.
Yeah, that's the main thing. Just continue pushing forward. Even if you start on a bad note, like Eldridge did, you can still continue and have a good day. Just watching other machines just overcompensate or overpush their machines, and they will be out of this race as they continue to be pushing forward on that lead group, as Weitendorf deciding it is time to go to the front now as he's on the back bumper of Houndshell.
Shell and Weitendorf, both former winners this season. Both of them looking to get their 2nd win on the year, as they both run currently about 0.4 of a second behind Jeff Green. The question is, does this battle for 2nd take place before they get up to Jeff Green, or maybe do they work together to try and make it a 3-man fight for
Green
his
at the wall!
lead? Well, that answers the question.
Luckily, it wasn't that hard of a hit, but it is going to ruin his momentum, dropping him back to 4th place. And we'll see if the 10 machine can get back up here and get back underway, as it looks like he's got back onto his rhythm and right on the back bumper of the 63. As we say that, Weitendorf now to the point.
Dorf to the lead. Houndshell not going to contest it, at least for the moment. Tries to cross over going into turn 1, though.
And will successfully get that crossover started. Can he finish it? And he will with that momentum. Here comes Christopher Morse Jr. in the 3. That's a lap machine in that 3 car, as he's going to be trying to unlap himself. But it is going to be hard, as these front 2 are still battling back-to-back.
Shell out in front. Let's not forget, Houndshell is trying to close up the points gap between himself and Christopher Morse Jr. Right now, 10 positions separate the two, with Houndshell the leader and Morse Jr. in the 10th position, first car 1 lap down.
Now, as all these drivers are going to be putting in a lot of work here as they continue to be pushing forward, it's a lot of how do I get up front and hold this lead, as it's been tires being the issues for these drivers to hold the lead off. As they'll get the lead, they'll push it a little bit too hard, and then the pack will catch up to them. That has happened to so many other drivers, as Randy Koken getting out of the way in that 46 machine on the inside.
Now the field, at least back behind our top 4 and the lap machine of Christopher Morse Jr., pretty well spread out. Not much battling going on there, so we are heading towards that lap 30 mark on this run. If we are to see contact and a caution come out, more than likely going to be up in this lead group.
It's been a lot of spins out of 4 that have caused this, a lot of these cautions to come out. There has been a spin out of 2, but mainly it's been someone hitting the wall out of 4 after misjudging. It's Christopher Morse Jr. blinking a little bit up front. That's something that's kind of nerve-wracking for these drivers. When you see a car blink, you have no idea where they truly are on track, and there's always potential of them blinking inside of another machine.
John Weitendorf takes a much different entry into the corner than Houndshell does. He tries to take it a little bit shallower, trying to see if he can get his nose to the inside of the left rear of the 83. Houndshell, however, kind of swings his car wide and then drives it in deep, kind of not really chopping off the nose, but at least blocking the momentum that Weitendorf can get from the center of the corner off.
Here comes Christopher Morse Jr. trying to break that momentum from the 33 and instead hurts himself as, as the momentum and getting back on the throttle. We had the shadows there. The clouds were in. It got in the track down to 95 degrees as the track temp will start heating up as Whitendorf to the lead.
Whitendorf going to get to the inside and clear off of turn 2 for the top position. Maybe not. Now he does, as Christopher Morse Jr. trying to follow in his tire tracks. And, I have to speculate it. I don't expect it to happen, but just in case this thing goes green to the end, yes, Christopher Morse Jr. has a shot of getting up here to the front, getting his lap back, but in order to gain a lot of positions on track, he's going to have to do something a little bit different than everybody else in terms of pit strategy.
Yeah, a lot of these drivers, if they're thinking about making it all the way to the end, that is going to be a tall order because you're asking for your tires to last all the way to possibly lap 145, and that is, I don't know if your tires will make it to that point, as a lot of machines probably thinking about pit stops here in the next 15 laps or so.
Now, Blaine Atkin is one driver we know has used a fast repair here tonight, so what he's got is what he's got for the conclusion of this race, and we're starting to see him start to brush the wall again. He's got some right side damage, and it's just looking like the handling on this race car not to his liking, especially as the tires wear down. That driver that's really in need of a yellow flag right at the moment.
Christopher Morse Jr., just one more driver to get by, and then he's back on the lead lap. And then he's kind of hoping for a caution to come out for that 3 machine as he is finally on the back bumper. But I think really right now Whitendorf is the 1 machine. We haven't seen the 3 get past just yet.
Now we've got a slower car, as you mentioned, Randy Koking there in the... Actually, that's actually Todd Eldridge in the 96 moving up out of the way. That makes me a little bit nervous, though, because you run that high up on the racetrack. There's a very good likelihood that you're going to hit the wall coming off the corner, but did a good job backing it down and not brushing the wall off of 4.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you have to be very careful when you're going to be letting cars going by on the inside. Luckily, they did a great job on those moves. Looking at the lap times that are being placed down, and I'm surprised on how well I'm seeing both Gerald Campbell and Tyler Riggs, who look like they've been saving their tires. They may not be running as fast as the cars in front of them, as Stein Miller and Green making a shuffling move there for position. But those drivers, I think they're starting to figure out this track. Something to watch out for is, Stein Miller and Green almost made contact there.
He did. Jeff Green, I'm not sure if he was trying to save his car off of 2 or throw a block on the potential crossover by Hank Steinmiller, but those 2 nearly made contact again as Green firmly in control by about 2 car lengths of that 3rd position. And remember, Green lost the lead from brushing the wall off of turn 2, trying to get back onto the comeback trail here as he's got about maybe half a straightaway to reel in the top 2 drivers.
Now, I'm knocking on wood, trying not to jinx ourselves, but we're inching closer and closer to green flag pit stops, and those pit stops could be what brings out a caution, as like you said earlier on, getting on pit road is very difficult here at Dover. It is a very short and very narrow pit stall that you have to somehow slow up and get down to the speed limit. That is quite slow as these drivers are going and carrying about 120 miles per hour, if not more than that, throughout these corners.
So Morse Jr. is going to unlap himself with that pass, and he opened up the door for Jake Hounshell to take a look for the race lead. Hounshell wasn't quite close enough as Whitendorf closes the door, holds the top position still for the moment.
Now Christopher Morse Jr. is praying for a caution to come out as he's in front of our leaders, which would put him on the lead lap. And since he's already on the lead lap, you wouldn't have to start at the back of the field with a lucky dog.
We already were told that 80 laps for fuel. You mentioned about 40 laps for tires. When we went back green with about 120 laps to go. Would some of these drivers maybe think about splitting it with one pit stop, 60-60?
I mean, they could try to go 60-60, but man, that's a risky call because of tires and the way that they have already dropped off a ton. And I don't know if you'll have enough tires by the end of this thing.
The only thing that I'm thinking, though, is you might want to stretch it as far as you possibly can, because we've already talked about the fact that you're going to lose at least a lap, maybe 2, if you come to pit road for green flag pit stops. And we've seen just how hard Christopher Morse Jr. has had to fight to get just 1 lap back. Not sure you want to run the risk of being one of the first cars on pit road, have a caution come out, and find yourself multiple laps down with only about maybe 50 laps to go.
Yeah, it's not the way that you're wanting it to go, as We're seeing the battling up front as Houndshell got back to Christopher Morse Jr.'s back bumper and will lap him again as the 83 car gets by the 3, and here comes the 10 under the 33.
Not so sure. John Weitendorf might have gotten the wall there off of 4. Green had to make an evasive move to the inside to take that second position.
Oh boy, Steinmiller into the pits. I don't know if that's an unscheduled stop or not. No, it was he was coming into the pits very slowly, misjudged the pit stall, and went right into the water barrels, but able to continue going forward into this pit stall. But man, hard contact for the 63 that had he possibly use a fast repair here.
Oh, Blaine Atkins just hit the water barrels as well as he tried to woe it up onto pit road. He had to teleport to pit road because of that.
Yeah, Steinmiller able to use a fast repair here. Blaine Atkins already used his fast repair. That 05 is done.
Wow. We talked about how difficult this pit road is to get onto as here comes Christopher Morse Jr. Here comes the 33 of Weitendorf as well.
And oh, they got onto the pit road cleanly. It is going to be ruthless for a lot of these machines getting onto pit road as here comes Houndshell now trying to woe it up. And it's a lot of slowing down into 3 and hoping that you can get from the track to the apron cleanly as 83 cleanly does it.
The driver, you want to be as aggressive as possible, try to get out of pit road, but it's almost like a blind corner. The pit road commitment line and that orange commitment box kind of comes up on you really quickly. A lot of drivers use that overpass bridge, that alley overpass bridge there going into turn 3 as a kind of a reference for their braking area.
Yeah, they're trying to utilize any type of point to help them try to start to slow down so they don't come in with too much speed. As the drivers that still need to pit here is the 5, the 90, 26, 33. And speaking of the 5, it just got extremely loose out of 2. As well as for the 10 and the 31. That is about 6 cars that need to come to the pits.
And just to point out what I was saying about the possibility of losing a lap on the green flag pit stops, right now Houndshell is a lap down. Weitendorf.
Oh, Gerald Campbell missed pit entry and scraped the water barrels.
And that's going to lose him a lot of time. Pit road playing just as much a factor here tonight as the actual racing surface has.
As drivers are trying to figure out how to get into pit road as well as get around this course on these older tires. Waiting to see who's going to be coming in. Gerald Campbell going to be trying to come in at the pits once again. We'll see if he overshoots it one more time as he's trying to back it down. The 31 machine able to get in.
You can see the there on the left front of his Back to the Future machine after getting into the wall, trying to get onto pit road. So now 4 drivers, at least up here inside the top 5, yet to make pit stops. Green, Riggs, Hollifield, and Schaefer.
And also, drivers just unlapped themselves. There was a row of cars coming through as starting off with Weitendorf. As Tyler Riggs able to come in the pits, as well as Todd Eldridge. So that's 2 more cars that came in, 4 left that still need to pit coming to this thing.
Now, just to show how much time that Jeff Green is losing out there on nearly 50-lap old tires. That last time by, he ran about a 28-second lap time. The race leaders, they were running down there in the high 24s to low 25s. And you can see right there, Steinmiller going around to get one of his 2 laps back, how easily he was able to make that pass on the 10 car.
Yeah, here's the thing. The longer Jeff Green stays out here, he's losing time. But at the same time, he will also be having the best tires by the end of this thing. And that's what also we're seeing the 5 and also the 90 trying to do is Gerald Campbell is done for the evening. He's going to park it as well. So Todd Eldridge, as well as Todd Eldridge is in the pits, but for Randy Koking, he's going to be able to gain some positions and might be finding himself a top 10 finish here.
I'm not surprised to see the 2 drivers out that are out right now, Jeff Green and Ron Hollifield, because Hollifield we saw do the 2-tire strategy back on the first caution to gain track position. Jeff Green last week at Charlotte went with a 2-tire strategy to gain track position and almost picked up the victory that night. So not surprised to see that these are the 2 drivers that are kind of doing the strategy as far as staying out the longest on these worn tires.
Wow, Tyler Riggs and Koking almost collided into one another, which would have changed the whole entire aspect of where we are running right now, as that could have left us with only 3 cars on the lead lap to finish this race off.
Watching right here, the battle for third place between 2 lap machines, but the reason we're watching this is this could potentially turn into the battle for the lead when Jeff Green and Ron Holifield eventually come to pit roads. The 90 is on pit lane now. Houndshell in the 83, Whitendorf in the 33. Those two separated by only 0.2 of a second.
And now there's only 3 cars that still haven't pitted on this sequence just yet. That's Jeff Green, leader, only car on the lead lap at the moment, as well as Eric Schaefer, 1 lap down, and also Randy Kokine, who is 8 laps down.
When does Jeff Green bring that number 10 machine to pit road? Not this time, as he continues to go out there and log laps, and Green might be headed for that target lap I was talking about, maybe lap 60, to make what could potentially be his final pit stop of the day. Most of these other drivers will probably have to be to pit road at least one more time.
I mean, it's a huge run to go for, but he is running so slow. Now it's yellow! Oh my goodness! We're only gonna have 2 cars on the lead lap.
Seth Harrelson on the front straightaway, and this is gonna change up everything.
Well, that was another thing I was gonna bring up, is the possibility of Jeff Green just staying out, waiting for a car to make a mistake and bring out a yellow, and Seth Harrelson, sadly, it was a 0-7 that did that.
Every car is a lap down to the 10 machine. Jake Houndshell, who was able to hold off John Whitendorf there after their pit stops, looks like he will be the recipient of the free pass. And as you mentioned, there will only be 2 cars on the lead lap when we go back green.
Man, that must be demoralizing for the 90 machine, as he just pitted about 2 laps before that caution came out. But Jeff Green came over the radio for these drivers and was just like, y'all pitted way too early for this, and proven, as he was able to stay out and now will be coming to the pits. Here's the thing though, he's gonna have to, everyone else has to pit one more time, while Jeff Green, I think he might have to maybe do a quick stop for fuel wise.
He can make it on fuel from this point out. The question is, does he want to run about 65 laps on a set of tires? And of course, we're possibly not done with yellow flags here tonight as well.
Absolutely not. You got a lot of hungry, frustrated cars that are now not aiming for the lead, but aiming to be the first car 1 lap down.
And interesting too, because this really hurt Christopher Morse Jr., who before the pit stops began had battled his way back onto the lead lap for a brief moment. He now finds himself a lap down. Well, he was 2 laps down in the 9th position, and he's going to have a lot of lap machines ahead of him.
Yeah, he's actually going to be 1 lap down. Actually, he's going to be 2 laps down once everything gets cycled through again, as all these cars that have not pitted yet are in front of our leader and are going to be pulling in now to get fresher tires.
Jake Houndshell, he went around receiving the lucky dog. So right now it's the 10 and the 83 that are currently battling this out. And Jeff Green has used his fast repair as we're closing in on 60 laps to go.
Figure it out. It's now time to utilize it. I think it might be a little too early to utilize your fast repair if you've been saving up for this long. But, some of these drivers feeling like it is time to use it. I'm surprised to see Tyler Riggs actually is staying out on the 7 lap older tires than everyone else.
So am I. He would be one of 4 drivers in contention for the lucky dog. Should we get another caution? Himself, Eric Schaefer, Hank Steinmiller, and John Whitendorf. How about Steinmiller, another driver like Jeff Green that actually stayed out, had gotten himself to only 1 lap down, and he's now up inside of the top 5 because of that.
Steinmiller used the fast repair on that last pit stop, so he'll be trying to stay clean. Right now, Whitendorf just used his fast repair this pit stop. A lot of machines deciding now's the time to utilize their fast repairs, and no one's really taken the strategy of Dallas Myhan of wait until the very last moment.
I have 11 cars that are still going to be running when we go back green, nearing around 65 laps to go. Only 2 of them on the lead lap with a very untimely caution for most of the field. Jeff Green and Jake Houndshell going to be your top 2, the only drivers currently battling for the lead. when we go back green. We're going to step aside for a quick commercial break. You'll be seeing the action here under pacing on our FRN side by side, and then we'll be back for the restart for what could be maybe the final restart of the night here at Dover. Well, if you're just tuning in here tonight to race number 9, the G-Force Sim Racing Hijinx Clothing Company 87 series here at the Dover Downs 200. Boy, you've missed out on a very interesting turn of events here in the last 10 laps. Couple of drivers staying out during the cycle green flag pit stops. Jeff Green, the race leader. Everybody else trapped a lap down with the exception of Jake Hounshell, who, being the lucky dog, has to start the very tail end of the field behind all of these lap machines.
Yeah, it's hypothetical that it's just become reality of what if a car stays out and then a caution at the end puts everyone a lap down. Jeff Green, I don't know how he stayed out as long as he did on those old tires, but it worked out for the 10 machine as he is now the one up front leading on the lead lap, and the other car that is also in the lead lap at the end of the field. This pace car rolls off. It's now all battling for who will be in third place when the next caution comes out, because we know that another caution is coming.
Drivers can make it on fuel. Question is, what will they have for tires? Will they try and stretch it all the way? As there you see Seth Harrelson, he's trying to get one of his 2 laps back, trying to get around the race leader Jeff Green.
Carlson's trying his best at the moment as he'll be ducking it down low on the 10. And here's the thing, Green really doesn't need to be pushing it too hard right now. He can really just focus on saving his tires as he pulls up. He does not want to be that high up because there is a lot of built up rubber and a lot of marbles up there that is going to make your car not feel too great on the high side, or if you go too low.
So a wall up there, and Jeff Green has used his fast repair, so he doesn't want to have any added damage on that 10 machine, especially if it might come down between himself and Jake Hounshell for this race win, who, by the way, Hounshell has been able to clear about 6 cars since the restart. He's only about 0.8 of a second now off the back bumper of that 10 machine of Green.
Also, Whitendorf able to unlap himself, so he's on the lead lap just in front of Green. So that 33 machine is going to be trying to take off and try to get as far away as it can from the rest of these cars. But Hounshell is coming with a head of steam, and it just looks like Green's really just in cruise control.
And Hounshell has not used his fast repair. That damage on the front is still from an earlier restart stack up. So Hounshell still has a fast repair in his hip pocket should he need it here in these final 60 laps.
And re-looking at all the drivers, I believe Hounshell might be the only one that still has a fast repair at the ready. But Green has now got to figure out, do I stay behind the 33 and let Hounshell come closer? Or do I just try to pass the 33 here and put him lap down again?
Yeah, right now it would be Hank Steinmiller in the free pass position should we get a caution, since Whitendorf is ahead of the 10 car right now, last car on the lead lap. If Green's able to get around Whitendorf and put him a lap down again, that would slot the 33 back into the free pass position.
There's just so many cars all over the place that are all 1 to 2 laps down. It's so odd to see as right there. Houndshell easily getting by Steinmiller, and now Houndshell, he's just got his eyes on the 10 machine that is kind of being stalled out and stuck by the 33.
Timing of that caution and the strategies we saw played out has put some drivers up into positions they haven't been running in all night long. Seth Harleston, we just saw get one of his 2 laps back. He's up in the 6th position. Right now, the last car 1 lap down. Eric Schaefer, who played the same strategy that Jeff Green did, he's currently 1 lap down, but he's up in the 5th position.
Yeah, Schaefer was 2 laps down for the longest time, and it was just, if he came into the pits, he was going to have issues. Did not, and now he's 5th. Other cars that he's battling around for that 5 machines, the 07, who just got himself 1 lap down, as well as the 63. So only 3 cars 1 lap down at the moment, which is great news for the 5 machine that was kind of struggling here today. But everyone else, I mean, it is so odd to see. Is Christopher Morse Jr. still 2 laps down? Tyler Rake's 2 laps down. Ron Harleyfield, I mean, we were seeing those drivers up front running well, and now they're back in the field just a little floundering, really.
Right now, Jeff Green is running faster lap times than Jake Houndshell, but I think he might be a little bit frustrated with the 33 up ahead of him. I think he's wanting to drive it into the corner a little bit deeper and a little bit faster, but he pulls right up to the back bumper of Whitendorf and has to check up.
Yeah, right now, it's got to be frustrating for sure. But at the same time, we're seeing that Houndshell really isn't pushing it as hard as Green is. Green has to continue moving forward as these drivers now, the only drivers on the lead lap, which is so surprising to say and see. But they possibly could make it to the end with these tires and fuel that they're on if we go green to the end.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to ask you. I mean, Jeff Green kind of proved that you can go nearly 60 to 65 laps on a set of tires. So with that being said, does everybody now basically shoot for that checkered flag, or does that deviate their strategy at all? Of more than likely them coming to pit road somewhere in the vicinity of maybe 30, 25 laps to go to make a final pit stop?
I think Jeff Green might have been the only driver besides the 5 that was just staying out there hoping for the best, that would stay out that long. Everyone else, it's kind of in a shocking mode of, do I want to risk my race staying out there on tires that I know that could just ruin me at any moment?
Jake Houndshell, his pace is backed off just a little bit. He's been running about 1.5 to 2/10 slower than Jeff Green every lap. That time by only about 4/100 slower. You gotta wonder if that front end damage might be affecting him just a little bit, or is he saving tires here, potentially planning that this thing might go to the checkers and he wants to have the freshest rubber of the top 2.
That would be so demoralizing for the 10. Be leading up front, having a fast machine, have the strategy that could win you a race, and it's the car behind you that is running a pretty similar strategy but steals it at the end after running you down. If Houndshell's saving his tires, I guess now is the time to do it. As the shade is no longer here, it continues to shuffle back and forth. I think the last time we talked about temp, it was 92 degrees. It was at 91. It is now climbing back up to 92 degrees as the sun is back on the track.
And the one thing that Jeff Green has to do here, I saw him get a little high off of turn 2. He has to avoid hitting that outside wall, especially with the fact that he's already now used his fast repair. Let's not forget that before that caution came out, Jeff Green was leading. He got the wall, fell back to 4th, worked his way back up to the 3rd position, and then inherited the lead when the 2 drivers ahead of him came to pit road. So he definitely had the lead handed back to him after he sustained damage. He's got to avoid that situation now.
You can do everything that they can at this moment to do that, and right now, Jeff Green is really in just, yes, he is trying to run as fast as he can, but he is running faster than Houndshell. And I'm looking at other drivers on track and the pace they're putting down. Right now, Jeff Green, fastest car on track, and is trying to just continue to move forward as they're actually catching up to Seth Harleston.
Tough thing here is to be able to figure out, we know the 10 of Jeff Green is pushing it, but is Jake Houndshell pushing it, or is he saving? It's tough to tell just based off the lap times. That last time by, he was a little bit quicker than the 10 of Jeff Green.
And right now, it's so hard to tell what's going on with these drivers, man. They're just shuffling back and forth on their times. It's odd to see a race where it's all these machines are lapped down and it's only 2 cars on the lead lap battling for the lead.
Well, 3 cars on the lead lap if you count Whitendorf, but he's just ahead of the race leader. He's practically a lap down. And also, we ended up having, what was it? I think 4 drivers a lap down. We went green, 3 drivers 2 laps down. There's really no battling for, but green in the wall again.
That was a hard contact, losing a ton of momentum. And here comes Houndshell in that 83 machine. I was just about to say, we're getting to that lap 20 marker that we have been seeing earlier in the race, being the cause of a lot of cautions because of tire wear.
Whoa, saw Jeff Green there as we're on board with Houndshell getting really loose going into the corner. And you talked about the fact that we had the shade just a moment ago, and now it's transitioned into sunlight again. Track conditions constantly changing might be affecting the way that this 10 car is handling now.
Yeah, once we saw the shade go away, it's back again. Cloud cover is in constant rotation, and now our leaders are catching up to lap machines. A lot of cars that are way off the pace, and this is going to be an interesting moment for these drivers, as now we've got Todd Eldridge, that's going to be the first lap machine that our leaders get to, and then you got a couple of others. This is about to get very tricky for cars up front.
We're into the final quarter of this race, the home stretch to the checkered flag, but we may not be done with cautions, especially with the fact now that the race leaders are getting up into the vicinity of about 4 drivers that are either on the tail end of the lead lap or multiple laps down. First car that Jeff Green's going to have to deal with is that 96 of Todd Eldridge.
Houndshell can taste blood. He is pushing it very hard into these corners, trying to gain as much as he can through the center and off as here comes the 83 machine.
Really deep there into turn 1, gets the power down as he gets to the inside of Eldridge, clears him. It's only 3 car lengths now separation between Green and Houndshell. It was about 5 seconds between the two, with one starting at the front, one starting at the back of the pack on the last restart.
And with those lap machines out of the way,
caution!
Please caution! Oh boy!
Steinmiller in the 63, and I think maybe the lap machine of Todd Eldridge possibly got together on the front straightaway.
Eldridge into the wall, came back into Steinmiller, and that's what caused our caution. And Steinmiller would have been the recipient of the lucky dog. We'll actually see if the 5 car will be given the lucky dog machine.
Whitendorf was ahead of race leader Jeff Green when the caution came out, so he will be back on the lead lap. And that means he'll actually be able to line up 3rd in line on the restart, since he did not have to rely on a lucky dog free pass.
And with that, like I said, we were in that window where cautions previously were being seen. And same thing off of 4. Off of 4, that wall has been brutalized by a lot of cars, and it has taken really a lot of cars with it.
Less than 50 to go. You talked about it. Is this when Houndshell comes down and takes that fast repair?
I don't know if it is. I think it has to be with the final 20 laps, because it's still possible for us to have another caution here. Is just the way that we've been seeing the tendencies throughout this race. The pattern shows that there's going to be another caution coming out here, as Randy Koking is going to be parking that 11 machine now, as it leaves us with possibly 10 cars out there, as Todd Eldridge is now in the pits.
Randy Koking may have actually gotten the wall we just saw up ahead there. Letting the race leaders by, is saw nothing for Steinmiller to be able to do, as Eldridge came down to the right side door of his number 63, and indeed look like it will not be Steinmiller getting the lucky dog. It will be the 5 of Eric Schaefer. So 4 cars on the lead lap, and Green, Houndshell, all on pit road. Battle off of pit road. Looks like it's going to be won by the 10 machine.
Jeff Green going to be in front of the 83, and did not take any time to get that damage repaired, which is surprising to see, but feeling like track position more important than that repairing that damage.
Well, Houndshell also did not use the fast repair. Still has that front end damage he's had for most of this race. Cleanest car out of the top 3 right now might be that 33 of John Whitendorf.
Yeah, Whitendorf looked quick, and I think that is something that these leaders need to be nervous about. He was able to make the pass by both the 83 and the 10, but the real thing was he was a lap car that time that he got by. This time he's on the lead lap, and it's going to be for position.
We talked about the fact that John Whitendorf getting around Jeff Green, getting himself back in the lead lap was important. The pass that Seth Harrelson made to get himself one lap down was also important because when we go back green, two drivers will be fighting for the free pass position, the 63 of Hank Steinmiller and the 07 of Seth Harrelson.
Yeah, and we're kind of running out of time with laps. Even if we have a caution every single lap, not all these drivers will be getting their laps back. So it is very important to be one of those drivers that are one lap down at this time, as it's looking like if we continue on the pattern that we've had throughout this race, we might see another caution here around lap 180 to 185.
Todd Eldridge bringing out this latest caution, but if they could get that car at least back out there for another 6 laps, everybody that is still running will be leaving Dover with a top 10 finish.
That is the real key, though. Can Eldridge get his car fixed up because he was involved in that last incident?
So as things stand right now, your top 4 are on the lead lap. Green, Houndshell, and Whitendorf will line up 1, 2, 3. Schaefer, the recipient of the free pass, will be at the tail end of the field. Seth Harrelson in 5th, Hank Steinmiller in 6th are 1 lap down. They will battle for the free pass position should we get another caution. And Christopher Morris Jr. in 7th, Ron Hollifield in 8th, and Tyler Riggs in 9th. They are 2 laps down apiece. As things stand right now, the best they can finish is 7th place here tonight, unless we have something drastic happen here in the final less than 40 laps to go.
It's still wild seeing the cars that are up front. We've only have 4 cars on the lead lap. Wild to see. At one point, we only had 1 car on the lead lap until a caution came out, where it gave Houndshell a chance to be battling up front. After Whitendorf finally getting his lead back the hard way, he's now up here with these leaders. The 5 machine, though, with the lucky dog, he'll be starting all the way to the end of the field, and we'll see if he can somehow work his way throughout traffic, but just based off the pattern that he's had, he hasn't been having the fastest car all day, but a top 5 finish would be great for that 5 machine.
Absolutely would. I don't think Eric Schaefer has finished in the top 5 all season long, so looking for what would be his first career finish inside of the top 5. And if you look at the other 3, Jeff Green, best finish of 2nd. That was last week at Charlotte. Jake Houndshell, winner earlier this season at Atlanta. John Whitendorf, winner earlier this season at Talladega. Only 2 drivers came into this race as multi-time winners. Those were Blaine Akin and Christopher Morse Jr. Houndshell and Whitendorf want to add their name to the list as a multi-time winner here in the G4 Sim Racing Series.
I'll say this for Schaefer. It is incredible that he will be possibly having the chance of a top 5 finish here, because this is one of the biggest fields that we've had all season long. A very tough track that has taken a lot of good machines out of the running for the win. This is very impressive for the 5 machine.
This proves that if you stick around and run all the laps, you never know what kind of a finish you may end up getting. As the lights are out atop the pace car, we're getting ready to turn them loose here once again. Good news for Jeff Green, at least this time, is he's not going to have any traffic up ahead of him. He did have to deal with John Whitendorf and Seth Harrelson near the beginning of that last run. Now he's going to have nobody in his windshield, and might be able to approach the corners as aggressively as I think he was wanting to back in the last run.
I think the one thing our top 3 have to worry about is that it's the 3 machine, 4th in line. Christopher Morse Jr. is going to be running as hard as he can to make sure that he at least can be 1 lap down just in case caution comes out. But it's going to be Jeff Green leading the way here as pace car is off, and green flag back in the air as they take a very slow start here, but everyone's not stacking up.
Green backing him up just a little bit. May have gotten a bit of a jump there on Jake Houndshell, but not much. You talked about that 3 car. Here comes Christopher Morse Jr. He just got around the 3rd place car of Whitendorf. That 3 car flying to the front, trying to get himself to -1.
Whitendorf understanding, hey, just let that 3 car go. Don't waste my tires on that battle. It's the 2 cars in front of the 3 that matters the most. Let them use their tires trying to hold off the 3.
Ooh, Green got a little wide there off of 4. That opens the door for Houndshell to close up even more. He's going to look to the inside as Green overdrove it into turn 1.
And Green has to figure out how to get an opening and get down low as quick as possible, because here comes the 3 machine trying to make a move.
Maybe Christopher Morse Jr., if he tries to get to the inside of Houndshell, might open the door for Green to battle back for the race lead. But Green trying to get his momentum back as he gets back to the inside line. Now it's Morse trying to get around Houndshell to get himself to 1 lap down, trying to get himself back into the hunt for a lucky dog position.
He's going to try the best that he can. I think right now the 3 is looking for 2 quick cautions. Now that he's out on and found his way, 1 lap down, he needs a caution so he can be stacked up again. And the second one, once he's the first car 1 lap down.
All of a sudden, John Whitendorf has not only lost a spot to Christopher Morse Jr., he's lost one to Seth Harrelson, and now one to Hank Steinmiller. Those are lap machines. That 33 is dropping all of a sudden, and this is not a good sign, especially with the fact that we've got 35 to go. I don't think you could be saving at this point.
No, you cannot be saving it that much. Yes, it was good to let the 3 go, but you cannot let the other 2 go and try to get up front unless his goal is try to save and wait for the 2 lap machines they let pass him, try to get up front and challenge more for the lead, but he's lost another position to even to Tyler Riggs, who's blinking a little bit. So this 33 machine, what was looking like a chance to win this race, might be thrown out the window unless we have another caution, as Green right on the back bumper of the 83.
Well, last week at Charlotte, Jeff Green was the hunted. Tonight, he is the hunter, as that car looked like it got awfully tight going there into turn 3. Closes it back up off of 4, though. Boy, when he gave up on corner entry, he gained on corner exit.
That's basically the give and take you really have to think about, but there we go. The 10 car back to the leading the point as Jeff Green trying to get his first win of the season, and it might be a tough one here tonight between himself and Jake Hounshell.
Nothing but clean racetrack for the moment in front of the 10 car. It's a long ways up to Christopher Morse Jr., about 3/4 of a straightaway. Now he's just got to worry about hitting his marks and force the 83 of Hounshell to do something different.
But don't look now. Here comes the lap machines. It's the 07 and the 63. They are closing on our leaders now. And these are 2 lap cars that are trying to unlap themselves as they're both 1 lap down.
This is actually the race within the race for the free pass position if we have another caution come out. Right now, Harrelson has it, but only half a car length back is the 63 of Steinmiller trying to take it.
31 laps to go, and it's something to watch out for as we are 10 laps away from the opening of when we're usually kind of nervous about tires drop off and the tires being an issue as they're side by side for that 5th position. Seth Harrelson trying to be the first car 1 lap down just in case the caution comes out, but they don't want to be the reason for the caution, so they have to be also cautious about that.
I remember Steinmiller got involved in the wreck with Todd Eldridge under the last caution, was in the free pass at the time. Woo! Great save there by Seth Harrelson as he nearly went around there through 1 and 2, but to your point, Steinmiller, Harrelson, they cannot be the caution because if they're in the free pass position and they spin or they wreck or they get involved in a wreck, they do not get that free pass spot.
If both these drivers bring out the caution, it's Harrelson almost scrubbed off that outside wall, but they continue to push forward. If they're the reason for the caution, the 3 car that just just put himself 1 lap down instead of 2 laps down, that 3 of Christopher Morse Jr. would be given the lucky dog position.
Right here, you got 4 cars, 2 drivers focused on the race win, 2 drivers focused on the lucky dog position, and both battles are in very close proximity, about maybe a car length and a half or 2 between both battles.
This just looks like a concoction that is about to just burst. As the more closer we get to the end of this race, the more intensity it builds up. Remember, we're on the 87 rule sets. There is no overtime or green-white checker for these cars. If there's a caution in the last about 4 to 5 laps, it is over. You will finish this race under yellow. So they're also thinking about that time clock.
Remember, we saw Jeff Green. All of a sudden, his car really seemed to come alive when the cloud cover was over Dover. Looks like the clouds are creeping back in.
They're coming back into here, and the temp has dropped even more as it has been just slowly dropping more and more. Yes, the sunlight has come throughout this race, but it's down to 90 degrees out there on track.
Jeff Green looked like he drove a little too deep there into 3. Hounshell was able to close up the gap. We saw the 07 of Harrelson get the wall there off of 2. These drivers having to deal with the changing track conditions yet again.
Green once again trying a little bit of a higher line, seeing if that's going to give him some more grip off of exit, and it's working just a little bit. But Hounshell, we know we can dig it in as here it comes in that 83 machine. He just has such a better entry through 3 and 4 than the 10.
The back end of Jeff Green step out there, and that might be why he's trying to adjust his line on corner entry to avoid that loose sensation. Drifts up the track again. Hounshell's going to look low. Going to not give him a lane, though, as Jeff Green off of turn 2. 25 laps to go.
Seth Harrelson has been setting up this 83. If his back end drifts up one more time off of exit, Here comes the 07, and he'll be trying to unlap himself, but he's got to pass both the cars in front of him. And if he gets by the 83, you could practically say that that battle for the lead is over.
Todd Eldridge has now moved into the top 10, so everybody that's running will be leaving Dover with top 10 finishes. And yeah, with Seth Harrelson, he's kind of between a rock and a hard place because right now he's got about a car length and a half between himself and Steinmiller, but he wants to get around these two race cars because if he can get himself raced back onto the tail end of lead lap if a caution comes out, he gets to line up in the fourth position, or rather in the fifth position, rather than having to start EOL at the tail end of the field.
So that next lap that they come across the line, they will be on these tires for 20 laps. And it's about to get interesting at that point because that is around the time that we've started to see most of our cautions begin.
I was looking when we went back green, and just the fact that these drivers, if we go green to the checkered flag, they will be crossing the start-finish line on 45-lap-old tires. The only drivers that, and to my knowledge, have run laps that long on their set of tires are the 10 of Jeff Green and the 5 of Eric Schaefer.
Yeah, that is the longest that we've seen. I think maybe we would have seen other drivers like Tyler Riggs and Gerald Campbell possibly, but they both were thinking about pitting around that time. So we'll have to wait and see. As here comes Houndshell on the inside, but he just can't get the launch off the corner.
Couldn't get the power down as he was to the inside of the left rear of the 10 of Jeff Green. Green can't leave him that much room off the corner, as now Houndshell going to try and go onto the outside, might try and get a run here onto the back straightaway.
And Steinmiller is right on the back bumper of the 07 as, whoa, a little bit of contact.
Reed's up and in.
He's coming up. Contact. No. Green into the wall, possibly. He saves it.
Harrelson nearly went around as well as he was in the middle of a three-wide situation. Now Green finds himself boxed in. He's trying to get past these lap cars again and focus back on that 83 of Houndshell.
They're not giving him any space, and here comes, oh my goodness. It's going to be Weidendorf coming out of nowhere.
Weitendorf, we haven't seen him since the green flag dropped for the restart. Was he saving too much, or was he saving just enough? He's going to move by Jeff Green into the second position.
The 33 of Weitendorf. We'll see once he crosses the line. Green into the wall again. Weitendorf is running about a 10 faster than the 83, but that's after him passing a vehicle. I think he's about a 10th to 3/10 faster than Houndshell right now.
Maybe a straightaway ahead is Houndshell. Houndshell still has that front end damage. Weitendorf has not made any contact with any other driver or the wall since he got his fast repair. We'll see if that might be the difference maker as he continues to chip away. It's now 1.7 seconds between the 83 and the 33 with 18 laps to go.
The biggest problem here for Weitendorf is he's got lap cars in front of him that are not going to be giving up that position easily, as they are both fighting for themselves on their positioning. So it's not going to be an easy, here you go, I'm a lap car anymore for this 33 machine. It is going to be a hard-fought battle, and he's going to be losing time on our leader, as it looks like contact between the lap machines. Here comes Weitendorf on the inside.
Weitendorf looks to the bottom on Steinmiller. Could not get to the inside line, though, as they continue to race ahead of him. And every time these guys make contact ahead of him, he's having to check up, losing more spots. Oh, gracious, Harrelson blocking all the way down the back straightaway. They're stacked up. Contact again between the 07 and the 63.
And also Weitendorf gave a little bit of contact to the 63 as I don't know what these guys are racing so hard, but it's so frustrating for Weitendorf because he knows he's so much faster than them. Able to get by the 07, now trying to get by the 63 here off the corner of number 2.
Steinmiller going to try and fight back because he doesn't want to leave the bottom open for Harrelson to try and cross him over and take the lucky dog position away, but Weitendorf is going to clear off the corner. It's now a second and a half that he has to make up with 16 laps to go.
Oh, there goes Seth Harrelson!
And he is around. Caution with 15 laps remaining.
We got to look and see. Was the contact? It was just with the wall. Steinmiller will become your lucky dog for that position as we move forward.
And this gives new life to Jeff Green potentially to get back into it. And now, 27 laps in, now you use the faster pair if you're Houndshell, right?
You have to use it. There's no way that you can hope for another late caution here. You have to use your faster pair at this moment, as they ran 27 laps before that last caution. And it is going to be a dogfight here. Coming, once we go green, less than 10 laps to go.
Jake Houndshell, John Weitendorf, Jeff Green, Eric Schaefer, and Hank Steinmiller are going to be the 5 drivers on the lead lap when we go back to Green Flag Racing, as we're going to take a look back again at what happened to Seth Harrelson. And it all just kind of went wrong in two corners as he drifted up the track, lost the lucky dog spot to Hank Steinmiller, and then got the wall there off of turn 4.
Yeah, it's just, you're hoping that he could just keep himself straight, but there was a lot of contact being shuffled around with all those vehicles there, and sometimes it's hard to get back into your rhythm, and once you've been hit a couple of times, you're just like, when am I going to get hit again, or what do I need to change so I don't get hit? And right there, it's coming late to the action. You're trying to hold your nose, and contact was made there.
And what was really going to make things interesting there was the fact that about a tenth of a second was being chipped away each time by John Whitendorf. According to the calculations, if he had continued that pace, we would have had our two race leaders, Whitendorf and Houndshell, nose to tail on the final lap.
It was going to be close, and now we get to try it all over again.
About Jeff Green, two-tire strategy. We saw Hollifield do it earlier. Green's going to do it here, and this is the same kind of strategy he pulled last week at Charlotte.
I don't see how this is going to work out. I can't. It's too long. I think if it was just about 3 laps to go, possibly I could see this working out. It's just too many laps at the end of this race for these two tires to even try to do anything. As I know Hollifield it wasn't the fastest car up front trying that strategy out, but this is a risky move by our 10 machine. But I mean, you might as well put all your chips down on the table for this one. As Jake Houndshell did utilize his fast repair, that 83 is the cleanest car up front.
Right now you've got the front, right, left, and rear damage on the 10. 83 of Houndshell with the fast repair, and the 33 of John Whitendorf, I don't really see any damage on his car either. He got a fast repair back, I think it was under the last caution. So two pretty pristine race cars are going to be on the back bumper of Jeff Green here on what's going to be a less than 10 lap to go shootout.
These drivers are aiming for that 5-lap marker. 5 laps to go is the time that you need to be up front and hold the lead, because if there's a caution that comes out from 5 laps to go or any later than that, we will finish under yellow. Any caution before then, we will have a in-house green-white checkered possibly, or even a 1-lap shootout. So these drivers are going to be in a constant eye of moving forward as quick as you can.
You saw right there your top 4 in that shot. Green, Houndshell, Whitendorf, and Schaefer. They're going to line up 1st through 4th, lead lap machines. Hank Steinmiller will have to start back in 10th in this lineup as the last car on the lead lap. Should we get another caution, as you mentioned, and have an in-race green-white checkered, the battle for that free pass position is now going to be between Christopher Morse Jr., who we saw get one of his laps back under that last run, and Seth Harrelson, who brought out the last caution. But they need a caution to come out probably within the first 2 laps of this restart. And
Steinmiller is going to have to go through everyone here, hoping for an early caution to give him a better chance at the end, because if we stay green, I don't think that's going to be enough time for him to get through the field and get up front.
When we had about 15, 16 cars in the field, I would have agreed with you, but we saw when I think it was John Whitendorf was able to get the free pass, how quickly he was able to cut his way up through the field. There's only 10 drivers in the field right now, so not a whole lot of cars for that 63 to have to pass, and he's shown some pretty good pace here in the closing stages.
He has good pace, but the issue is the damage that 63 has. He's gotten into the wall. He's bumped into other drivers. I'm curious to see, as I say that, though, I think, did Steinmiller have a fast repair left? No, yeah, I think
no,
it's
I don't
slightly
think so.
Damaged.
Yeah, he's got that damage still there on the nose.
Yeah, and a little bit on the right side, but that machine has a little bit of damage that could be affecting him. Something to watch out for. Green has probably the most damaged vehicle of our top 4. It's going to be a rough time for these guys up front. I think Eric Schaefer just excited to have a top 5 finish here in that 5, as this has not been his best course, but the strategy call for the 5 has worked out fantastically for himself.
The big thing for Jeff Green that he's got to adjust based on what we've seen on the last 2 green flag runs. He's got to figure out a way to hold that 10 car down on the bottom because he always seems to drift up about a half lane too high from the center of the corner off. That opens up the door for Jake Hounshell to be able to get around him, and there is a huge tire difference here. Right side tires are fresh on that 10 car, but he's got about 30 lap old tires on the left side of his machine.
Yeah, and Hollyfield, when that machine came in and did 2 tire stop, that was on about 20 lap old tires. So it's going to be interesting how these drivers go through. A lot of the cars that are lapped down are already telling Steinmiller which way they're planning on getting out of the way. But we know where the pace car is going, into pit road with 9 laps to go. Jeff Green leading us the way.
Let's think about the situation Jeff Green is in. If this doesn't work, he will probably finish 5th. If it does work, he could go to victory lane. So why not try some strategy as Green does not get going, stacks him up behind him. Hounshell was almost into the back of him. Here comes Whitendorf looking for the lead as well.
Hounshell came down low, blocking the 33. For the battle for the car that will be the first car 1 lap down, that goes to the 3 machine of Christopher Morris Jr. as he is now 4th in line here, dropping back quickest to 5. But the challenge for 2nd place is hard as Green goes wide.
Green could not hold the bottom. Hounshell drove it deep. He's going to go to the point. Whitendorf trying to clear Green for 2nd, trying to set his sights now on the 83. Both those cars up to speed, look pristine, and trying to take this win here at Dover.
Steinmiller's up to the 3 car. He's going to be 4th in line. He is coming in that 63 machine, and he looks driving angry.
He's already gotten around Eric Schaefer for 4th. Car for position ahead of him, and Jeff Green looking to get up into the podium is Hank Steinmiller in the 63 car. Half a second, now 4/10 of a second from Hounshell back to Whitendorf with 7 laps to go.
And we're seeing if Whitendorf can do it. I'm looking at Steinmiller. He's going to easily get by Green. Green with the 2-tire strategy did not work out as he's going to be losing 3rd place to Steinmiller. Steinmiller right now less than a second away from our leader.
And now the battle for the lead closes up to 3/10.
Contact! Green and Steinmiller! Yellow flag out in the field!
Caution's gonna wave, and we may get back green flag racing as Tyler Riggs in the 26 was caught up in this one as well. Steinmiller in the 63, a lot of rear end damage. And we're gonna possibly have another restart. It's gonna be close.
Yeah, it's either gonna be a 1 or it's either going to be a possible green-white checkered, 1 to go, 1 lap shootout, or we're done. We're have to wait and see where they stack up. As right now, Hounshell waiting for the pace car to come on by before crossing the line to try to help themselves out. And it's looking like it's going to be a 1 lap shootout for these drivers as Green coming into the pits.
Hank Steinmiller tried to clear himself on Jeff Green and just didn't time it quite right. Made contact with the right rear up into the left front of Jeff Green. Spun around. It's a wonder Jeff Green actually didn't really get involved in that wreck, and then nowhere for Tyler Riggs to go. He was on the bottom of a 3-wide situation.
And looking at cars that will be given the lucky dog that goes to the 3 of Christopher Morse Jr. So that 3 machine, it was running 6th at the time, could be finding himself up there in a podium finish just based on how some of these cars are looking here at the end.
About 75 laps ago, Christopher Morse Jr. was 2 laps down, raced his way to the front to get one of his laps back the hard way, and finally here at 5 laps to go, finds himself back on the lead lap. A long road to get back on the lead lap for our points leader.
Possibility of a caution was always there. The intensity levels were rising more and more, and just a slight contact between the 10 and the 63. And you know Steinmiller was running hard at a fast machine, was using up those tires immediately, and just contact you were not expecting to see.
Well, Hounshell used his faster pair, the caution before this last one, back on caution number 6. John Whitendorf has been able to keep his nose clean since taking his faster pair. If we do get back green, who you got your money on? Because Hounshell's got the clean racetrack. He's got the restart that he's able to control. But at the same time, Whitendorf has shown some really good speed. But the last 2 restarts, he's had to deal with slower traffic.
If we have to just base this on how everyone's been racing here today at Dover, I would give my money on Whitendorf with using his bumper and using the bump and run. But that's just because that is the most. I think Dover really has shown the most of the nose being used out of any of the tracks that we've seen so far this season. And I would not be surprised if Whitendorf does it. But if he doesn't use that bumper, I've got to give the advantage to that 83 machine of Jake Hounshell, who's going to be going for another win here this season.
I'm going to base it off of how many laps we're going to have to go on a restart. If we get 2 to go and in-race green-white checkered, I think that Whitendorf has a shot. I think if we have a 1-lap shootout, though, it's going to be advantage 83 because he's only going to have to hold off the 33 for 4 corners. 8 corners is a lot longer to have to hold off Whitendorf, and Whitendorf has had a better car the longer the run goes on. We've seen him be able to close up the gap about a 1/10 of a second every lap, when he's been able to either be in second when the 83 is in the lead or in third when the 83 is in second. I think he needs as much time as possible to be able to get up there and set up the 83 for a pass.
It's
I don't think he can do it in 1 lap.
Shootout.
Oh, boy.
It is on a 1-lap shootout. We needed the lights to go out this time by. Did not. And now we're waiting to see. If the lights do not go out on this... Whoa. I'm excited to see how this thing's going to go down.
I think they'll go out. I think we're going to get a 1-lapper here. If Whitendorf's going to have a shot, he has to be on the back bumper of that 83 when they exit out of turn 2. If Whitendorf loses half a car length to Hounshell by the time they get into turn 1, it's race over.
I mean, the way that we've been seeing Hounshell use his back bumper, blocking Whitendorf as much as he have, I would not be surprised if Whitendorf just moves the 83 out of the way for this win.
It's incredible if you look at these 2 drivers and the tracks they've won at previously this season. Hounshell at Atlanta, Whitendorf at Talladega. Those tracks couldn't be any more different than the Concrete Monster Mile here tonight.
Trying to get it done is the 83. We're going to wait and see. Coming out of 4. If the lights go out this time by, we'll have a 1-lap shootout. If they don't, believe the race is over.
I'm hearing that we are going to have a 1-lap shootout. Let's see if indeed the lights go out on that iRacing.com pace car, and they will.
Oh, here we go.
I almost said will not. It faked me out.
It's on. A 1-lap shootout here at Dover, and we've seen the noses being used. Who's going to use it here at the end?
And look who's in third, Eric Schaefer. Let's say the top 2 get together. Who slides through to take the win? Is it the 5 of Schaefer, the 10 of Green, maybe the 63 of Steinmiller? Who knows who's going to be the leader when we get back to that checkered flag?
I'm very interested to see how these drivers are about to go through this. Lights are out. We'll see who's going to be winning it here. And inside the track, 1-lap shootout. 200 laps, they've all come down to this one time. Seth, who do you got?
I'm going to have to go with that 83, I think. I think if he can control this restart, he's going to be able to hold him off. But you never know. Miles the Monster's been hungry here today. Does he have a little bit more room in his appetite for some of these race leaders? Top 6 on the lead lap as we go back green will be Hounshell, Whitendorf, Schaefer, Green, Steinmiller, or maybe even Christopher Morse Jr., our free pass car from this last caution, coming back to the checkers. Green flag, white flag, in the air. Here we go. 1-lap shootout.
Oh, instant contact as Whitendorf tried to jump and he didn't. Ran right into the back bumper. Here comes Green on the inside for 3rd place. But I think that contact hurt Whitendorf way more than he expected, as they're all going to be right on the back bumper. Here comes Whitendorf on the outside.
Going to the outside line. Let's see if this works for him, or will he try crossing over? Tries to get back to the throttle. Hounshell clears him. Whitendorf looking to cross over. Hounshell trying to make his bumper as wide as possible, and will win here tonight at Dover.
Eric Schaefer did it. He got 3rd place, his first podium of the year, first top 5. That 5 machine got it done.
Green gets 4th. Christopher Morse Jr. does get a top 5 after spending about the last 50 laps 2 laps down.
Woo! Who thought it was going to be interesting at the end there? I mean, at one point, we only had 2 cars on the lead lap, that being Hounshell and Green. And it came down to Hounshell trying to beat out the 33 machine. On that restart, I think if Whitendorf didn't absolutely clobber the rear end of the 83, he probably would have had a better launch there. But the win goes to Jake Hounshell, the 83 machine.
He joins Christopher Morse Jr. and Blaine Atkin as a multi-time winner this season, and more importantly, even though Christopher Morse Jr. was able to finish in fifth, this gives Jake Hounshell maximum points in trying to catch up to Christopher Morse Jr. for this overall season's championship.
It's going to make the championship so much more interesting for these drivers, especially with the implementation of the fact of the drop race going to be put in for these drivers later on in the season. And then also this potential chance of not just one drop race, but the potential of two drop races as they're talking about that with the admins and trying to make sure that they give this the fairest chance for all the drivers that are here in this series. But man, that must feel good for Houndshell. I mean, it was a long 200 laps for these drivers, and they finally got it done here tonight.
Certainly was. Jake Hounshell playing the strategy perfectly in terms of being able to preserve his fast repair until the very end of this race. I was very surprised to see Whitendorf make a move to the outside there, going down the back straightaway, knowing that he wouldn't have the preferred inside line going into three. But I think what his mentality was, if he could get enough of a run, maybe pinch Hounshell down, Hounshell was not going to give him the bottom on that back straightaway.
No, absolutely not. And I thought maybe he would follow the 83, use his bumper, instead try the outside lane, and it just did not work out. A great defensive move by the 83. But I mean, Jake Hounshell, what a great run on his part. I mean, he was up front most of this race. And, it's one of those things where he didn't qualify, had to start back in 13th. Once he got up front, then he stayed up front. The same with our top three. Actually, our top four all started outside of the top 10, and a massive win for all of them.
He continues to burn it down here on the front straightaway after doing an Alan Kulwicki Polish victory lap around the Monster Mile. We're looking here at our full finish results, and the name that jumps out to you, yes, a great win for Houndshell, a tremendous podium finish there for John Whitendorf, but how about first podium finish, first top five of the season for Eric Schaefer, and it all goes back to the timing of that caution right in the middle of green flag pit stops.
It was such a fantastic run for these guys, and I'm so happy to see that five machine got it done here today and with a top five finish. I know it wasn't the day that he thought throughout this race running in the back of the field, but really that pitch strategy of staying out with green helped him and gave him this potential top five finish.
And everybody else here in the top 10, Green, Morse Jr., Steinmiller, who were the last cars on the lead lap, as well as Harrelson, Riggs, Hollifield, and Eldridge were the survivors here today at Dover, finishing out this race and all gaining top 10 finishes as a result. But then you go on to the second page of the results. These were the drivers that really struggled here today, not just with the track itself, but a lot of these drivers as well. Campbell, Atkin having problems with pit road.
Yeah, pit road really was something that we saw being just a chaos place for a lot of machines, and we knew it was going to be a potential of drivers having issues. It's a very tough pit entry to get into. It comes up to you really quick, and some drivers just came in with too much ahead of steam.
Let's see if we could get some interviews with our top three finishers who you alluded to have to be exhausted here after a grueling 200 laps at Dover International Speedway. Let's go down and see if we can get a word with our second place finisher, John Whitendorf. Hey, John, it's Sam and Seth up here in the Flatout Racing Network studios. You got us?
Got you loud and clear.
Oh my goodness, what a one-lap shootout there. We're going to talk about that first because that was crazy. There, all the way from turn one, all the way out of turn four. We saw you jump up there to the high side. You got alongside him going into three, but then what was the strategy from there to the start-finish line?
Well, initially going into three, I was tending to try and pinch him down, but I realized pretty quickly that I couldn't maintain alongside of him, so I decided to back out of it a little bit and then try to maybe sneak my bumper up underneath him coming out of turn four and break his momentum.
We saw you be able to work your way up into that position after racing your way back on the lead lap. The timing of that caution after, well, just quite to the end of the cycle of green flag pit stops really changed up everybody's strategy. How much of a curveball did that throw for you?
Well, initially I thought I was on the lead lap because I had unlapped myself, but I guess I had gone 2 laps down. So at the time, I didn't really realize that I was still caught a lap down. But I was just being patient, just running with the guys around me and, just kind of hope for another caution. I was working with Seth. We had gotten around Jeff and unlapped ourselves after the restart, so I was trying to stay in front of Jeff at the time and keep Hank behind me because he was the next car a lap down. I didn't want to have to fight extra hard for that lucky dog spot if I needed to.
That was probably one of the funnest racing we got to see here at Dover. Just watching you cut your way throughout the field there, John. And what was it like coming out of these corners though? Because it just seemed like coming out of 4 was the death spot for a lot of these drivers.
Yeah, it looks like a lot of guys were struggling out there. I know Jeff Green hit the wall several times tonight. I was behind him for a good portion, but that was my main focus, was just getting a good run out of the corners, and I did that by backing up my corners, and I was getting a pretty good launch. I know compared to a lot of other cars.
We talked about the fact that Dover's a mile in length, but a lot of the type of racing we see is very similar to how we see drivers race at short tracks. You were one driver, especially early on in the race, that was not afraid to use the bumper, move people out of the way. How difficult is it to do it just based on the fact that you're fighting these race cars going into the corner and at the same time trying to line up and see if you can be able to bump that driver up out of the groove?
Yeah, got to be real careful with that. I got into Hank, I know, a little bit earlier in the race, and I was pretty fortunate that I didn't spin him out and put him in the wall.
Well, John, obviously a tremendous run for you here tonight. An unbelievable last lap there for all the fans here and for us up here in the broadcast studio. A second place run here this evening, and get you a little bit closer as well into the conversation for the championship. Of course, we've been documenting the fact that the drop races are going to be coming into play here when we get to close to the end of the season at Michigan. But we're going to let you do some shout outs now.
It sounds great. It's just it's probably the most fun race we've had all year, and thanks for having me.
That's John Whitendorf. He finishes second place here tonight at Dover. Congrats on a great run. We look forward to seeing what you're able to do next week.
Thank you.
And let's go down to Victory Lane and get Jake Hounshell. Jake, it's Sam and Seth up here in the Flatout Racing Network studios. You got us?
Hey guys, how's it going?
Well, it's going great for us, but I bet it's going even better for you. Man, a grueling 200 laps here at Dover. It comes down to 4 corners, 1 lap, and you had that 33 all over your back bumper. How difficult, with the way we saw drivers racing all night long, was it to be able to formulate a strategy to keep him in your rearview mirror for that final mile?
It was all about that restart, so I didn't think I got a great restart, but it ended up working out. I think I even choked a little bit. But he definitely had me, he had a nose on me, I think, going into 1, but that's all I could do just to cut him off, because that was the race. So it was nerve-wracking for sure, but it ended up working out.
With the timing of that caution in the middle of the race that had a number of drivers, including yourself, trapped a lap down, how difficult was it to be able to, when you saw these later cautions coming out, realizing there's another driver that could potentially get up here and battle me for this win?
It was concerning for sure. I know Jeff and I were on the same lap for a while, but yeah, like you said, I knew the 33 was going to be tough. The 3 is always tough. He was a lap down for pretty much the entire race, but he ended up coming back. So it's hard to say. I know Hank was going to be tough. It's a guessing game, really.
Yeah, Jake. I mean, it was one of the funnest races that we got to watch. But you had to start further back in the field at the start of this race because you didn't qualify. How was it getting through traffic? Because it seemed like it was difficult at times just to make passes on people.
I actually did qualify, but I choked. I spun out, so I wasn't going to be able to use that. So yeah, I started from the back, and it wasn't that hard to pass. All you had to do was take care of your tires, and I think I did a pretty good job of that. I know I saw Jeff and Hank get out front, way out front, a couple of times, and I was just kind of sitting back like, man, they're going to come right back to me, and they did. So yeah.
One thing that we saw, Jake, was you were one of the few drivers that was able to use your faster pair the latest in this race. You spent a good portion of this race with that front end damage after getting to the back of the 24. Did that affect your car in any way, or with Dover having such short straightaways, did it really not affect the speed of the 83 car?
I was concerned about it, but I don't think it really made a huge difference. When the way I ran down Jeff and Hank and some of the other guys, I didn't really notice it, but it was in the back of my mind, and I was thinking maybe I should have used it at 40 to go and then 20 to go, and then I just used it right there at the very end. So it ended up working out.
Well, Jake, we talked to you earlier on this season when you took the checkers at Atlanta. You get to burn it down here tonight and lift that Miles the Monster trophy at Dover. We're going to let you do some shout-outs now.
Yeah, man. Thanks for all my friends watching. Thanks for you guys for putting this on. It's just what you guys do is amazing. This here is my best track, so this is really one that I really wanted to win, do well at. So it was just an awesome night.
Jake Hounshell, with a restart of his life tonight, captures the checkered flag in the Dover Downs 200 at the Dover International Speedway. Congrats on a great run, a great win. Go enjoy it, and we look forward to talking to you next week at Pocono.
Absolutely. Thank you guys very much.
And as just mentioned, we are going to the Tricky Triangle next week, so the hits just keep on coming. We were at Charlotte. We saw them slipping and sliding around there. They're here tonight at the Monster Mile. Next week, we go to a track that has 3 different degrees of banking in 3 different corners.
I think that is probably going to be one of the hardest courses for these drivers in these vehicles. I mean, the 87 cars, we've seen them drifting around super speedway tracks. We've seen them have amazing runs at ovals, but the Tricky Triangle is so different from any other track that we've seen them run. I don't know how these cars are going to react, and it's going to be a blast to watch when they get there.
It'll be 80 laps at that one. The question is, how many drivers will have used their fast repair by the time we get halfway through that race? We're going to have to wait and find out, as that will be taking place next week, the G-Force at Pocono 200 at Pocono Raceway. Green flag will fly at 9:15 next Tuesday evening. But Dover is in the books. Jake Hounshell is now the 3rd multi-time winner on the season here for the G-Force Sim Racing Hijinx Clothing Company 87 Series. Sam, 200 grueling laps for these drivers. Appreciate you joining me for this one.
It's always a pleasure there, Seth.
To everyone that tuned in, we hope you enjoyed our coverage here tonight as you've been watching another broadcast courtesy of the Flatout Racing Network. We'll see you guys next week at Pocono.